economy is going well, and they're above the 50% mark. So getting, as we navigate through this next quarter, we'll probably see some changes along those lines. Also, the U.S. administration's trade and fiscal policies and involvement in the Middle East war, the Ukraine war that still goes on. Again, this may impact our sales tax down the road. We just don't know by how much or how long the effect will be in place. This slide, the Colorado Economic Indicators, this comes from the Colorado Legislative Council March 26th Economic and Revenue Forecast. And as you can see, January compared to January 26 to 25, our headline as well as our core inflation has increased. We'll see what that brings in their next report in June. Other external factors impacting the forecast, as I mentioned, the federal funds rate is one of them. At their March 26th meeting on the 17th and 18th, the Federal Reserve, left the federal funds rate at the 3.75% and indicating a possible reduction, probably 25 basis points or 0.25 of a percentage in 2026. That, of course, is all dependent on how inflation continues to react to the current economic conditions. Consumers still remain sensitive to price levels. Recently, with the rising gas prices, that's cutting into discretionary income. The geopolitical instability, this kind of plays into the psyche of consumers, as well as their ability to pay for discretionary items. Business continues to also look at their exposure, again, influenced by rising oil and gas prices. A somewhat good news note on property taxes here in Englewood. Even though the temporary tax relief measures have expired for the 2022-2024 Colorado legislation that was in place, there is one that's going to impact our 2026 valuation that we pay in 2027. And there is an adjustment of up to, for the first $700,000 of your property, there'll be a 10% reduction. That could be offset by any market changes in housing prices. Some internal factors that we'll have to navigate through is the 2026 collective bargaining agreements with our Englewood Employee Association as well as the Englewood Police Benefits Association. Our preliminary medical insurance rates per our broker, we're anticipating a 9 to 11% increase. Dental we don't know about yet. Same with workers' comp and property, casualty, and liability. And we're basically keeping flat our sales tax rate right now, but that could adjust for 2027. Alrighty, for the general fund, our unaudited year-end fund balance is at $16.74 million. And we have adjusted our revenue and expenditure budgets for our budget supplementals 1 and 2 that I've listed below. And then the composition, of the fund balance, we've increased TABOR emergency reserve just based on operating costs. And then we're estimating currently right now, based off of our 2026 budget as amended, a 16.65 unrestricted reserve. So it's very close to the 16.7, and that will be ending at almost 14.6 million. With regard to our fiscal responsibility for the past 10 years, you can see the compound annual growth rate has been year over year about 5% for both revenue and expenditures, and then CPI has changed about 3.4 per year. You'll notice that the first 5 years of the decade, revenues and expenditures grew slowly as compared to the last 5 years, and you can see considerable growth. The next slide is just showing our major revenue categories, and you can see that growth rate for the past 10 years, as well as first 5 years and last 5 years. All right, on to our assumptions. You're going to notice that we've maintained the same assumptions throughout the forecast. Again, that's due to the uncertainty of trying to forecast these numbers out. So we're going to just keep that flat or the growth rate increasing. It's always compounding year over year, but at 4% for sales and use tax revenue, property tax is 5%. And again, our property tax assessment is during the odd year, so we have an assessment this year, but any increase to any property tax will be felt in 2028. And then all of our other revenue sources, we're indicating a growth rate of 6%. And by maintaining expenditures at 3% per year, that's going to be probably a little bit difficult, but this is trying to control costs so that we can get our fund balance back to where we need it to be. So this next slide shows the impact of our assumptions on the revenue and expenditures. And the dotted lines indicate those are the forecasted amounts. The general revenue slide, this is just showing our major components of the revenue of the general fund. And the estimated compounded annual growth rate is 4.49%. And then this slide is for the general fund expenditures. Again, various expenditure components of personnel, commodities, contractual capital, debt. And the estimated compound annual growth rate is 2.93% for the forecast period. And this slide shows you just a side-by-side comparison of our sources and uses of funds. And our last slide provides you with a history of our general fund unrestricted fund balance. So you can see that our unrestricted reserve, as well as our unassigned fund balance, was growing from 2026 till about 2023. And since 2020, we have invested about $20 million from the general fund to fund various general government capital projects in our capital projects funds. Alrighty, next steps. Next week, we'll have our CIP discussion. In May, we'll have our preliminary discussion with the departments on their operational requests. And just June 10th is just a placeholder for Planning and Zoning and Budget Advisory Committee to provide a memo to the City Manager's office. And with that, Director Kevin Engels and I are happy to answer any questions.
Jenny, thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any questions for members of council? Go ahead, Member Russell.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So the one question I have on the General Fund 2026 fund balance composition in millions, unassigned fund balance, is that 78 cents?
It'd be $780,000.
780. Okay. All right. I appreciate that. And so the federal funds, and I think you explained how this impacts us. It impacts our sales and use tax, people spending money, things like that.
Yes.
So how long, I mean, the assumptions are right now that it's still going up, but depending on what happens if something doesn't go as anticipated and things fall apart?
Then we have to have a different conversation with City Council.
And would that happen in real time as we're looking at the budget?
I would imagine so, yes.
And also, if something happened, would it impact our current budget also?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Go ahead, Member Frank.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Just trying to get my head around how we're looking at forecasting and looking ahead to the next 5 years. Can you tell us a little bit about what the sales and use tax was forecast at for the last 5 years in comparison to this 5 years moving forward?
I don't have that right off the top of my head.
Okay. Can we
But
get
I
that?
could-
Can
but I
we
can
get
get that.
get that
Absolutely.
answer? The reason I'm asking is just to kind of get a sense of, so given
You're
the
looking for
volatile economy that we're looking at in a lot of uncertainties on many different stages, I'm just curious around why we're keeping the sales and use tax flat.
my thinking is it's the economy is so unstable right now. There's going to be changes to it, so it doesn't make sense for us to go out any further than 1 year. So I just had a placeholder just to see, if we extrapolated out our revenues and our expenditures, at what point will we get back to our 16.7?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But this could change, as I say, when we come back to you in August, and we'll provide you that information.
Okay.
Just because there's so many moving pieces and parts right now.
So we're kind of sort of looking at a 5-year forecast, but really in reality, we're kind of looking more at the next year and just waiting through that time period to see if things are stabilizing or not.
Yep.
Okay. So I do think that information on, where we were at previously in comparison to what we're looking for now would be helpful to me to keep my head around it.
So the actual, you're just wanting to look at what we budgeted versus the actual.
What the forecast was for sales and use tax for the last 5 years versus these 5 years going forward.
No, because this is on actual.
Yeah, that's not.
But I'll get you that slide.
It's okay to get it to us whenever.
I think it's last year.
And then I'd also like to understand: are we, when we're looking at inflation and predictors around that, are we focusing more right now on core inflation predictors or headline predictors, or a combination of both, and why?
If you look at the headline, that's going to include both food and energy. Yeah. Core takes those out because food prices are volatile. However, in Englewood, we don't charge sales tax on that. Energy, we don't get the sales tax on that either. It goes through the state, and then we get it back through the highway user tax.
Okay.
So those two are, so going off of core is going to be a little bit more of a predictor for us than headline.
Okay.
just because it will pull those out. But I mean, we could use either or a combination of the two. But energy won't affect us as much, other than what we all pay at the gas pump, and that impacts our discretionary pay, which impacts sales tax potentially.
Yeah. So I think I'm better understanding the distinction between those two. What I'm trying to understand more is like what our approach is in the fiscal department, and as we're looking at kind of forecasting and starting to build the budget, how
We're-
we build that into, or what lens we're using when we're looking.
We're kind of looking back at history, seeing what the trend has been.
Mhm.
You're also looking at what the forecast is by the Colorado Legislative Council. They have a economic branch that they have staff that is devoted to the economy and changes more so than, we don't have that resource in-house, so we're reliant on, what's going on nationally as well as what's going on locally here in Colorado.
Mhm.
And then we're also watching sales tax as it moves. We've noticed an just year-over-year change of based on a cash basis. So collections in January and February, we're seeing an 8% increase. However, last year-over-year change was 2.8%. Sales tax can be very fickle. You just
Right.
don't know.
Yeah.
And I've lived to
I
it.
think that's why I'm like trying to dig into like how we're viewing that from our local perspective. I understand that we don't have, a lot of staff and the expertise to like really be fine tuning some of these pieces, but at the same time, we can use the best information that
Yep.
we can use from the state, and even though we're not charging taxes at the grocery store on foods,
Yep.
there are
Oh,
a
other
lot
things,
of fiscal
absolutely.
implications and volatility right now. And so I guess I'm asking because I believe that while I understand like typically core inflation predictors are kind of where we would want to be sitting and be more comfortable in, I think right now we're in a position where some of those headline predictors do need to be considered,
Mhm.
especially locally, so that we are more smartly looking at our budget and forecasting in a little bit more of a precise
Yep.
manner.
Yep.
So just that's
Point
my
taken,
two
yep.
cents of how I
Yep.
think that we should be getting our heads around forecasting. And then my last thought for the evening is, have we ever considered looking at the creation of a local cost of service index versus just relying on the CPI from Denver, Aurora, and Lakewood, that combined CPI?
I have not. That's a good point. We probably should be looking at that.
So I think there's possibility for council to maybe at some point have a conversation as to whether that could be an ask to the Budget Advisory
Mhm.
Committee, knowing that they finally wrapped up the reserve policy project that they were working on. I think we have some real rock stars sitting on that group right now that could handle that kind of work. And I just think it would be one more tool. I envision the more that I'm reading about it, it does seem to require kind of a lot of upkeep and maintenance. But I feel like once you build it, then being able to upkeep it becomes a little bit easier. And especially in times like these, like
Right.
why would we not want to have something that's a better local predictor for us and kind of the trends that are happening within Englewood, which I think are probably vastly different than what you might see in Denver or
Right.
other areas. So that's also just a thought I'll throw out there, and probably an ask I'll make later. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Member Prang. Just one question for me, Jenny. I think it's a couple slides ahead of this. It's the 2020 to 2031. What was it? General fund. Revenues and expenditures, that one right there. Just kind of curious, the 2025 unaudited. For the longest time over the course of 2025, we kept hearing that sales tax was increasing at 1%, maybe 2% tops. I'm seeing 4.5% there. What changed towards the end of the year? Is that number reflective of what we saw towards the end of the year?
Oh, During the year, you're seeing a cash basis comparison, so month over month. At year end, you're now seeing an accrual.
Right.
What happens is we bring in January numbers, come into 2025, January numbers of 2025 fall off. So we had about an 11% increase in December sales reflected in January. So
Okay. December sales reflected in January.
so that, yeah, on the cash basis.
Okay.
So that was our collection compared to January of last year, 2025 versus 2026.
Okay. A lot of numbers being thrown
It
around.
is, it is.
But it's a positive though.
Yes.
From what we saw. It's a
Yes.
positive from what we were hearing over the course of the year.
Yes.
So okay.
Yeah.
That's what I just wanted to get a handle on that. I think that was my only question. I think everything else was covered.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of council? Ms. Nolan, was there anything else? I know that there was a few other slides in the deck. Are there anything else that we need
No,
to cover
that was
tonight?
just more information for you. Just some economic data that you can, peruse at your leisure. Also, just showing you where we've made our budget supplementals for like the sewer fund and the storm water fund. You'll notice that those original numbers probably have changed in this. I think they're right after the appendix.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get through it right here. But just letting you know that we have a favorable fund balance for the end of the year for all funds.
So since we're not going to be going through those slides, I guess I do have another question.
Okay.
I'm kind of curious about the PIF fund. It's
Yep.
So the PIP funding we receive that funding based on capital projects across the city, correct? Is that the right fund or?
Yes,
Okay.
and grants. So this also is reflective of grant money as well.
Okay, so I guess the PIP funding, I'm wondering if we can get I'm trying to understand how that PIP fund fluctuates over the course of the last 5 years, over a certain time period, and just understanding what the inflows are, what the outflows are, not necessarily the outflows, but what the inflows are, because we're using that fund to obviously fund capital projects across the city or other.
Correct.
I'm just trying to understand how that fluctuates over the course of a 5-year period.
Okay.
I think that would be good information for council to take into account when we are setting the budget for capital improvements over the course of a year, and just
We'll
understanding
definitely
what that
add
may
that
look
slide
like.
to next week.
What's that?
We'll add that slide to next
Okay.
week.
Go ahead, Member Russell.
Thank you. And so I have another question because this troubles me that in January, our first budget supplemental was like $6.7 million. And then now we have a budget supplemental of over 10 million when we just completed the budget. How does that happen that we could be $16 million off of the budget that we're projecting? Or what can we do to keep that from happening next time?
Well, the reason for our 10 million budget supplemental this month, City Council had approved a $3 million loan between the sewer fund and the stormwater fund. Well, we're doing a budget supplemental on the sewer fund to make that payment so we're increasing expenditures on the sewer fund so that they can make that payment to the stormwater fund. We're also showing once the stormwater fund receives its money from the Mile High Flood District, we're also going to make that payment back to the sewer fund. So another budget supplemental to increase expenditures on the stormwater side. So there's $6 million right there. And then we had $2.3 million for the public improvement or the Old Hamlin Complete Streets project. So in order to complete that project, engineering estimates plus streetlights, and I'm sure Director Rochelle will speak to it more eloquently and during our budget supplemental conversation. But that's again coming out of the Public Improvement Fund. So those were two unknowns. So you're going to have some budget supplementals that are, council action that we'll need to do, some that are unknown, but now we know that we will need a supplemental, in order to complete this cost. There's some errors and omissions there, but we'll go through that as we speak
Okay,
to it.
is there a reason that we project we're going to be paid back? Why would we do the budget supplemental before we receive the money from Mile High Flood District to pay off?
It's more due to timing, so that we don't have to come back like at the end of this month. It's more of being proactive, knowing that that money is going to be repaid.
Okay, and I appreciate that. What happens if for some reason we don't get the money back?
There won't be a payment back to the sewer fund.
Okay, well, and yeah, I understand that, but then we'll have that on the books as though it were there.
And
right?
and if you'd like, we could always amend the budget. We could also remove that $3 million at our next budget supplemental in July. So even though we increase, we can also reduce a budget.
All right. I appreciate those answers. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
Jenny.
Is there anything further from members of council? All right, Jenny, we didn't need the full hour, so that concludes that one study session item for tonight. Everyone, we're going to take a 30-minute break. We will reconvene at the top of the hour for the start of the regular meeting. Thank you so much. All right, members of the public, we are now back. I call this meeting to order. If you're able to do so, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, if you could please take roll call.
Yes, good evening. Mayor Pro Tem Anderson,
Present.
Member Bethel,
Present.
Member Prang,
Present?
Member Russell,
Present.
Member Ward, Mayor Sierra.
Present.
5 members present.
Thank you. Moving on to consideration of minutes from the previous session. Any changes to the minutes from the regular council meeting from May 2nd, or excuse me, March 2nd? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for March 2nd?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Could I get a second?
Second?
Thank you, Member Prang. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson,
Aye.
Member Bethel,
Aye.
Member Prang,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
Thank you. Now moving on to recognitions. So tonight, Englewood City Council would like to express our sincere appreciation for the dedication and hard work of our board and commission members. Your commitment to serving our community plays a vital role in shaping the future of Englewood, and we are grateful for the time, expertise, and passion you bring to these important positions. Thank you for your continued service and contributions to making our city a better place for all. And I believe tonight, City Clerk Carla, you're going to be reading off the names of members of the board, and I think, Jackie, you're going to be helping me with the certificates. So if you hear your name, if you wouldn't mind just coming up and taking a quick picture.
All right, for the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, we have Julia Porter. John Cole. And Daniel Lorden. For Code Compliance Advisory Committee, we have Cindy Shattuck. For Cultural Arts Commission, we have Stuart Alden. And Sherry Alwalt. For Election Commission, we have Craig Skinner. And Andy Sakaris. For the Englewood Retirement Pension Plan Board, we have Robert Stevenson. For Englewood Transportation Advisory Committee, we have Neil Sarno. Jacob Summerson. Jake Gilbert. And Daniel Strackelhan. For Parks and Recreation Commission, we have Emily Gonzalez. Rebecca Fuller. Jenna Biondolio, Cody Phelps, and Kristen Beard. For Planning and Zoning Commission, we have David Renson. For the Public Library Board, Dina Phelps. For Sustainability Committee, we have Hillary Kerwan, Eric Reitz, Nick George, and Caroline Santopadre. For Urban Renewal Authority, Eric Gilliand. Maria Simon. Oops, sorry about that. Maria Simon. And for Water and Sewer Board, Cami Joel.
All right, everyone, we're no appointments, communications, or proclamations, so we'll move on to public comment. So this time is devoted to listening to comments from the public. We have allotted 90 minutes total, with each speaker limited to about 3 minutes apiece. Each speaker is to sign up prior to the start of our meeting with a sign-up sheet in the back of the room stating your address if you're an Englewood resident or just the city you reside in if you're not an Englewood resident. And for your information, I will only state the city or the district when I do call your name to speak. Anyone that wants to speak virtually, please contact our city clerk's office prior to 5 p.m. the Wednesday prior to the city council regular meeting. If you do wish to use AV materials, please submit those to the city clerk's office Thursday by 5 p.m. prior to the meeting. And if you do need to use video, please use the area in the back. I believe that we have 6 speakers here tonight. I'm gonna address those that haven't spoken over the last 90 days first. So up first is Sarah Lepko, a District 1 resident. Good evening, Sarah. When you are ready, there should be a button with a green star or some there we go. There we go. Gold star, when you are ready to begin, just click on that and your 3 minutes will begin. There.
Did that work?
That did.
Okay. As previously mentioned, my name is Sarah Levko, and I am an Englewood resident. And I'm here to talk about the upcoming 2026 to 2030 strategic plan. So when I think about a city strategic plan, the most important area to me is community. While there are a number of reasons why someone picks a place to call home, the main reason people stay and put down roots is community. So compared to the 2020 to 2025 strategic plan, I feel that the new 2026 to 2030 plan is lacking in community focus. None of the areas of focus is specific to community, though you could argue that livability comes closest. Of the 41 goals, only 3 use the word community in the title. The most clear of those is goal number 4 within the public service focus area labeled community engagement. Now, within that, there are 24 individual metrics as well as 8 project plans contained within it. There is also reference to a plug-in plan. However, when I Googled and tried to find it online, it was not available. When a goal simply becomes a number of things to check off on a list, it feels like it's easy to get lost in the weeds. Some of the metrics are near and dear to my own heart. Snow Buddies is listed there, but then there are some that are less important. For example, what does number of video views mean? Which videos are these? Are they all videos on the website? Are they even the videos on the website? And then within that, how does viewing a video actually show community engagement? But at its heart, when I think about community and building community, the most important thing to me is third spaces. It would help if I could talk. I have personally seen the importance and success of third places with the Bates Logan Park redevelopment, which was part of the prior strategic plan. My family uses it every single weekend, and we frequently run into our friends and neighbors there. I will say that the plug-in plan noted here is vast, but the actual metric marked in the strategic plan is simply to count the number of trees that are planted. Not sure exactly how that connects. Finally, for forward-thinking purposes, the third space that I think could be the most impacted in the next 5 years is the library. Again, this is one of the goals. I think it's goal 11 within livability. However, again, it's not very clear. It references yet another plug-in plan. However, if you go to the library website, it is not on there, even though there's a tab for it. It directs you to yet another website that also does not have anything listed, although it does say that all 5 phases are complete. And yet there's another metric saying that something's going to be completed in Q4. So clarity here would really help with developing more third spaces as we look.
Ms. Lepko, thank you very much for your time tonight. Any questions for Ms. Lepko? No. Seeing none, Ms. Lepko, thank you very much for coming and speaking tonight. Up next is Noah Kaplan, District 4 residents. Good evening, Mr. Kaplan. When you are ready, your 3 minutes will begin. There you are.
Right. Good evening, Mayor Sierra and members of council. My name is Noah Kaplan. I live in District 4, and I also am here to speak about the draft strategic plan that's currently under consideration. Like the prior speaker, I'm concerned that the draft lacks the clear vision and prioritization that will be necessary for it to be an effective tool for our city staff and for governance over the coming years. I want the strategic plan to be a guiding document that's used regularly to make decisions and set priorities for the city. Many of you were recently elected or re-elected to this council based on specific policies, priorities, and goals that you asked Englewood voters to support. And now is the time to make sure that those priorities are reflected in the strategic plan so that the city can effectively pursue the vision that Englewood voted for. My primary concern is the lack of clear prioritization. So while the staff memo in the plan talks about the prioritization of strategic plan outcomes being used for developing the 2027 budget, there currently isn't any such prioritization. As a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission who will be responsible for participating in the capital budget process, I would ask you to make sure that the strategic plan provides the guidance that we need as members of boards and commissions to know what our priorities should be when making those tough funding decisions with our limited resources in the coming months. Secondly, there's a significant disconnect between the goals and the metrics that are used to measure success. So for example, under economic vitality, there's the goal to increase occupancy rates, which uses the number of meetings with vacant property owners as the proposed metric. In this case, we would know if the city was succeeding if we have better occupancy rates, not if we have more meetings. Under infrastructure, there's the goal to improve transportation infrastructure, which is proposed to be measured by completing an unstated number of safety assessments. The target just says baseline. So this goal doesn't even tell staff directionally what it would mean to improve transportation infrastructure. And we already have the walk and wheel plan, which has those definitions. It has those goals. So instead of layering on another metric, more terminology, more definitions, we should be setting specific goals for how we're going to move forward with what's already in those existing plans. So before this plan is adopted, I have two specific requests. The first is to establish a tiered priority system, directing staff to determine the highest priority projects and outcomes, keeping in mind that if everything is a priority, then nothing is. And finally, to shift to more outcome-based metrics. So refine the metrics so that they focus on results, like actual housing units built or infrastructure targets met, rather than just counting the activities of staff.
Mr. Kaplan, thank you very much for your time. Your 3 minutes are up. Any questions from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Kaplan, thank you for your time. Up next is Nicole Flounders, a District 3 resident. Good evening, Ms. Flounders. When you are ready, your 3 minutes will begin.
The star button.
Actually, no, it's already green, so you're good to
sorry.
go.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm also here to talk about the strategic plan and asking for more measurable and time-dependent goals. I specifically want to talk about transportation and safety of getting around the community. So I feel a lot of this community is focused on transportation. Just a couple examples I had are that there was a great traffic calming study that was launched that allowed community members to put a pin where there were problem spots for getting across busy streets or improving walkability. And I think that that was so successful that they actually extended the project because it was getting so much feedback. So that kind of leads me to realize that the community really agrees that transportation and safety is important. Right now, in the draft, there's a small section that says pedestrian safety. And the goals that are stated are the number of intersections with pedestrian crossing times reviewed and updated as needed. The second goal is number of intersections with leading pedestrian intervals installed. And the third one is feet of damaged or deteriorated sidewalk replaced. In all of these goals, the target is also baseline. So what does that even mean? I don't think there's anything really measurable about that or any ways for the community to know that we're moving in the right direction. So I would also like to see more specific and measurable goals, things like how many feet or how many meters of protected bike lanes, or how many projects were completed that improved safety of crossing streets. Things like that will allow the community to know that the city is working towards a goal and also allow us to kind of track our progress. So my request is similar to the previous speakers, is goals that are more specific, measurable, and have some time dependency on that.
Ms. Flounders, thank you very much for your time tonight. Any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much for your time tonight. Up next is Greg Knadison, a District 2 resident. And by the way, Member Prang will be giving the response to public comment tonight. Good evening, Mr. Knadison. The light is already green, so when you are ready, your 3 minutes will begin.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate your time tonight, the attention as well, and appreciate your presence. I share a lot of the sentiments of some of the previous folks who've spoken tonight. My thought when I saw the baseline was that in a 5-year plan, I would expect to see baseline as a goal for maybe the first year, and then subsequent years be improving on baseline. Or, I think that in many of the cases, rather than saying baseline, it could start with an estimate of what will happen in the first year. The other point of feedback that I have is about focusing on the impact that will happen. So as a previous member of the Transportation Advisory Committee, somebody's really passionate about that subject. I was looking at that section and would love to see, rather than an update to the walk and wheel plan, implementation of some of the priorities from the walk and wheel plan that we already have. I know that we've got folks here tonight who've been advocating for safer crossings and a bike orientation and pedestrian corridor on Fox, going from Clayton to Maddox, I think it is, or the two schools that touch on Fox. And that's an important goal that was in the walk and wheel plan. So we already made the plan. We need to execute on the plan. I think that an impact-oriented metric could be things like miles of bike-oriented bike lanes, bike boulevards, those kinds of solutions, or implementation of safety assessment recommendations rather than just having the plan go for the implementation of it. So those are my two big bits of feedback that are critical. Other than that, I thought, it's a great document. I appreciate all the thought and effort and research that has gone into it, but hope that you can work to make the metrics more impact-oriented and switch from baseline to either an estimate or baselining in the short term and improving in the 5-year time frame. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kennedison. Any questions from members of council? Seeing none, Mr. Kennedison, thank you for your time. Up next is Benjamin Ben David, a District 1 resident.
Good evening, everyone. Benjamin Ben David, East Amherst and South Lincoln Street. I think the key to any city plan is having a secure and safe environment to live in. So when you walk out of your house, you're not afraid, and you can go anywhere in your area without being afraid as well. As I've been here before, I've talked about a problem address on my block for the past 8 years. What we saw there just 2 weeks ago was something that was pretty amazing. We saw 4 cars pull up with no license plates on either one. I mean, I can understand maybe 1 car a year pulling up to an address with no plates, but this was 4 with no plates. The individuals scampered out of the cars, went into the problem address, and they were in and out of there in less than 3 minutes. On the very same day, we saw 5 unhoused people go into the address on foot and 3 go out. We don't know how many people live in this house at any given time. It's just unknown. Because when you have a drug trap house, if people are so inebriated that they can't leave, they get to stay a little while. The unhoused people that we see coming to the house are pretty wasted, and when they leave, they're even more so. We've called EMS over the past couple of years, and we've seen people down in the alleyway and even like a half a block away. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just been going on for just so long, so long. Excuse me. Even today, we saw some new arrivals that we've never seen before. Some cars pull up, and even 2 people on motorcycles pulling up and going into the house. I don't know if it has anything to do with the holidays. I don't know, but these are people that we've never seen before. That's all I have to say tonight.
Mr. Ben David, thank you very much for your time tonight. Any questions from council? Seeing none, Mr. Ben David, thank you again for coming. And final name on the list is Regan Benson from outside Englewood. Good evening, Ms. Benson. When you're ready, you may begin.
Good evening, City Council and everyone in the council chambers. Yes, so I didn't write down my last name, so I don't know why you said it. I don't know why you even know it, but do you do that to other people? Probably not, huh? Just me. Yeah. So your strategic plan, I hope you throw it in the trash because it's meaningless. People need to figure out how to do more with less and with less government. Oh, by the way, I'm from the city of Utopia. I think Utopia is a great place for every citizen that wants to live free. Now, if you're homeless, let's scratch that. You're a certain classification of a citizen that needs addressed if you're homeless or look homeless. I mean, heck, when you see homeless people going into a house, how do you know they're homeless? Seems weird to me. And, I know that it doesn't feel good when you have to talk to a homeless person. So you should, of course, call the cops. You should, of course, get them to bring you a piece of paper that says, I want to give you full and unfettered access to my property to come on here at any time and get rid of these homeless people. And then hold a meeting at the police department so this same group of people can sit there and bitch relentlessly while the police, Sergeant Totus specifically, engages in making fun of and recognizing that, oh yeah, it's her again. You know what? That doesn't feel very good. In fact, it feels disgusting. And shame on this city for continuing to perpetuate this disdain for a certain classification of human beings. I hope you hear me, because I think you should do something right in your strategic how to tax and fee more. Yeah, do it. Let's solve this homeless problem like you've told everybody you're going to do for years now. Oh, and I know that you violated open meetings laws in your executive session, so you could try to figure out how to arrest me again.
Ms. Benson, your 3 minutes are up. Any questions for members of council? Seeing none, thank you very much for your time tonight. And with that, that does conclude public comment. Member Prang, when you are ready, you may give a response.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to everyone who came out to offer some input tonight. It looks like there are a lot of eyes on our strategic plan, and I think that that's great. So to Ms. Levko, Mr. Kaplan, Ms. Flounders, and Mr. Nassen, I might be getting that. Did I get it right? Awesome. Just really appreciate your eyes on the plan. As you know, we have delayed the finalization of the plan so that we can have a full council in place. So definitely are looking forward to some upcoming conversations, and hopefully within that conversation then having opportunity to address some of the issues that you brought forward around goals and specificity and a lot of concerns around transportation and walk and wheel. I would encourage each one of you, if you have thoughts on other areas of the plan, to please do offer those up to us as well, so that we can get at the best plan possible for the 5 years moving forward. Just always really appreciate the input. I actually will go back and rewatch public comment. I was taking notes while each of you were talking, but I think there were some great points brought up that we can bring into the upcoming conversation. So thanks to all of you. Mr. Ben David, always thank you for continuing to keep an eye out for your neighborhood. I know that you have an ongoing frustrating situation that you are facing. Appreciate you just keeping council updated on what's going on in your area. I didn't hear any specific asks tonight, so just thank you for being here and being present and being engaged. And Ms. Benson, as much as I don't oftentimes appreciate the approach that you use in some of your conversation, I would like to respond to the piece about conversations that were held at the police department recently. I was able to watch some video from the meeting that you referenced, and have had some conversation with the city manager about our standards of professional behavior and how we are referencing people and outing people by name or not, or shouldn't be. Just know that that has been viewed and addressed within the city, and hopefully we will continue to see better and better standards of how we're handling those types of conversations and sensitivities about people that live in Englewood. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. All right, everyone, that does conclude public comment for tonight. I think we are going to move straight into consent agenda items. I didn't see anything pulled for tonight. Is there anything that members of council want to pull at this moment? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve 9A1, 9B1, 2, and 3, and 9C1?
So moved.
Thank you, Member Pring. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Member Bethel. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson,
Aye.
Member Bethel,
Aye.
Member Praying,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
All right, moving on to 11A1. This is CB 26. This is an ordinance amending municipal code regarding city's petitioning process. We have our city attorney, Tamara Niles, as well as our city clerk, Stephanie Carlisle. Good evening, City Attorney Niles.
Good evening. Some quick background on this item. Of course, we've already had a pretty extensive study session on it, so I will just touch on a recap of the background. The city clerk received a significant number of questions on the city's petitioning processes. Every time there's an election or a petition, such as an initiated ordinance or a referendum, we receive a large number of questions from citizens. How do I do this? What needs to be my petition? How many signatures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, a lot of our rules can be hard to find because we don't have them in a centralized location. Our rules are derived from the state constitution, state statutes, our city charter, municipal code, and even some rules were made by the Elections Commission, and they're contained within minutes of their meeting. So those are next to impossible for citizens to find. So to try to make it easier for people to find and follow our rules, and to eliminate some of the uncertainty that they have when going through these petitioning processes, for the last year, we embarked on a process to put them all in a single location that is easy for everyone to understand, and also including consistent rules so that every process follows the same procedure, has the same requirements. Ultimately, we just want it to make it easy for people to understand and follow. The proposed code update is creating new chapters of code, a chapter specifically on recall, a separate chapter on initiative and referendum, separate chapter on charter amendment initiatives, and then a single chapter on all of our petition requirements. The language updates include incorporating all major language from the charter into an easy place to find it in our code, which is available online. And then filling in the gaps for initiative and referendum, and then saving citizens and staff a bunch of staff time and uncertainty time in trying to find what those rules are. I've been working on this for so long that I think I just gave you all of the information on all of the slides. We also wanted to, again, make it easier for people, so provide for the clerk to create templates for people to use. So people can see what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to say, and know exactly where they need to fill in the blank. Here are some substantive changes, though. We had some issues where people wanted to withdraw their signatures on different petitions, saying they were misled into signing a petition. So we've addressed that and created a process that specifically allows people to withdraw their signature from a petition. We also provide for a clear ballot setting process or ballot question setting process that occurs before they circulate the petition. Right now, they could circulate their petition and then bring it for a ballot title and then be unhappy with the process at the very end. But with our timelines, they may not have time to challenge a ballot title before it has to go on the ballot. So we wanted to address that to make sure they do have time for that challenge process. We also include allowing unlawful practices in response to the citizen that said I was misled. We wanted to specifically state you can't mislead people to get their signature on a petition. And then if this is adopted, we will work with Communications Department to create a nice informative graphic that's easy for people to read and understand, to walk them through these processes. So I did this quick because we had a study session in February and spent a lot of time discussing it, and I received council feedback at that time. So this is a pretty high-level overview.
City Attorney Niles, thank you very much for that high-level overview. Any questions for members of council? Member Russell.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I do have some questions, maybe back one slide from the end, or it might forward one. The other way. Right there.
Okay.
So I have some issues with this. I mean, if I'm signing a petition, if I do not clearly understand what I'm signing, the onus lies with me. And I do believe, I don't know, does the city have training for petition carriers?
We don't currently provide training. However, we do have regulations for them that states, for example, you can't take apart a petition packet and then try to put it back together. So we do have rules for that, and we anticipate that that would all be included within this graphic that will be an easy to understand packet that we give to them so that they know what the rules are, know what to follow.
Right, and I agree with that, but I think already on most petitions, there is something that right at the very top says, if you do not understand this petition, you should not sign it. And I think if people are qualified to vote, the onus lies on them. Now, do I agree that someone should be able to deceive them? No, I do not agree with that, but I don't know. I guess what I feel that things probably in the last few years, maybe it's even gotten worse. I think maybe it's always there. People do things. So I really have some concerns about really making all of these changes. So the ballot titles, does that mean that when somebody does a ballot initiative, they're not going to have as much time to get, I mean, they'll have to have the ballot title, and who's going to be the person that decides if the ballot language is okay?
So a couple of issues there. So first, the template that the city clerk will create does contain that in bold and caps. Do not sign this. You have it. Don't sign it unless you understand what it says. Something like that. However, the ordinances, if it's an initiated ordinance, for example, it could be 20 pages, and so it seemed a little bit unreasonable to expect someone to read a complete 20-page ordinance when all they have is a little summary of what it is. So we tried to balance that, but I definitely understand your point. As far as the ballot setting process, people will need to start the process earlier because that needs to be done before they can start circulation. So they will have the same amount of time to circulate their petition, but they will need to account for the process to set the ballot title, which we anticipate would add probably to the process. But it would occur again at the beginning so that they could, if they disagree, if they think that the ballot title is biased or doesn't accurately capture what the item is, and for people watching, I know council all knows the ballot title is what you see on the ballot. That's the only language that you would see. So it gives them time to be able to challenge it in court if they disagree with the process. And it also provides for objective standards. The ballot title must be fair and unbiased, must be clear, etc. But again, they would have the same amount of time to circulate their petition.
So who would set the ballot title? Same as it is now, the council?
No, we are attempting to follow the state process that takes it out of elected officials and puts it in the hands of unbiased staff that has expertise in this area. So what we anticipate is it would be a committee of 3, which would be the city clerk or their designee, the city attorney or their designee, and a third-party election expert, which we anticipate would be probably an election attorney that does this for a living.
I would like to dispute that may not be unbiased. And I was at it was a political event probably in the election in 2023. And there was somebody there from the state that understood all of this, but there was a definite bias when that person was sharing all of the things from the state on the ballot. So I'm not sure we could, do that. And is it possible, because I know this is part of the problem, the people who have been doing the last couple of ballot initiatives, when they write a ballot title, then council changes it. So I'm not exactly sure how to get a fair process, but I'm not exactly sure that this is fair either. And then some of the ballot initiatives that have happened probably in the last 5 years have been a result of decisions that council has made at the last minute. So council would make a decision, and then if we change this process, the citizens might not have time to react. And how is that going to impact this? What about unintended consequences?
So our intention was to change this so that they do have time to react. If they disagree, if they think that the ballot title was biased or that it didn't describe what the ballot item will actually do, then they have the opportunity to have a court weigh in and decide that issue. And they would still have the opportunity to still get it on the ballot. The reason is they wouldn't have circulated that petition already. So we do it at the very front to give them plenty of time to be able to challenge it. Versus now, we do it at the very end. Often on the last day, we have to set it to make it onto the ballot. And so they have the choice of either challenging it in court and not making it on the ballot and on the election that they want to be on, or just accepting it as is. And we don't think that's fair to them. So that's why we propose this change.
Okay.
I should also add, I worked very closely with Councilmember Ward on this entire ordinance. I didn't realize he wasn't going to be here tonight. He used to work in the Colorado Secretary of State's office and is very familiar with these petitioning processes and ballot setting processes. And he actually guided us in the formation of a lot of this language. And I wish he was here to be able to answer a lot of your questions, because he is really our in-house expert on those state processes that have been tried and true.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate that. So once this passes, this change, is there like is a referendum process could happen here? Or what if people, let's say 5 years from now, something happens that people feel hamstrung about doing a ballot initiative? Is it possible they could challenge this ordinance at that time?
Yes, they certainly can. So an ordinance is adopted if approved by 4 members of council, and it can be changed or repealed, again, by a vote of 4 members of council. It also can be challenged by citizens. If citizens do challenge it, then city council still has the opportunity to repeal it without sending it to a ballot for a citizen mandated repeal or amendment.
Okay.
So I also consider municipal code to be it's not adopt it one time and it's there forever. I think as we see it in application, we can often identify unintended consequences. Like the whole purpose of this was to make it easier for citizens. If we find that it actually becomes a roadblock or makes it more difficult, I will be the first one to come back and say we need to amend this, because that would be completely antithetical to the purpose of the project.
I appreciate that. And in essence, you really have looked at things that have created a problem for us in the last couple of years. And so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Any further questions from members of council? Go ahead, Member Bethel.
Yeah, I just want to pose an opinion and a reflection on this. That I think that literacy rates vary, and literacy is often taken as an absolute, as whether someone can read or not, but the level at which someone reads is variable, and how they interpret the words on a piece of paper is variable. So in this proposal of having a paid staff member who is a professional in writing ordinance terms and drafting this language, I think resonates with me because they have experience in um, writing words that apply across literacy rates, whether someone has completed only high school or if they've have a master's degree. And I think that all of our Englewood citizens deserve to have a say in their election process, and that shouldn't be dependent on the level of their education or if they have a college degree. And I think that sometimes when we get into the language of an ordinance or of a ballot question, things get very technical. And I appreciate the ability for a professional to come in and say, let's put this in the most plain language as possible. And Rita, you make a very good point about bias. And I think it's important for us to understand that there is no history in its abstract form. There is only historians, which is to say, everyone has bias. There is no way to completely avoid bias, whether it's decisions made on a council or decisions made by those who we've appointed to make those choices for us. But it's something that we need to pay very close attention to. And I think that it's something that councils should all be wary of. And as we look at language, try to understand what our bias is. So thank you for bringing up those points.
Any further questions from council? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve 11A1?
Move to approve 11A1.
Thank you, Member Prank. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Any further comments? Go ahead, Member Russell.
I appreciate all of your input. I do, and I just, it's not, I do have some misgivings about this. So I'll be voting no, but it's not any one thing. We've done it this way for a long time, and staff in the past has always known where everything came from. I suppose, I don't know, maybe it was in their heads. I don't know. But I think if there's not a problem, don't fix it. And so I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russell. I'll add a few thoughts here. I will be voting for this ordinance. I think just the fact that we've had a couple of special elections and, citizen initiated processes over the past couple years, it's kind of led to some of the issues that we've seen or some of the things that we could clean up. So I know that I think we're moving in the right direction going down this path. And also just the point, Member Russell, you brought up in terms of bias, having city council kind of weigh in on the ballot title kind of put us in a tricky position in years past. And I never really liked that process just because obviously it went against something that we may have voted on in the past. And so there was that kind of bias or that type of issue, which I just never really felt comfortable with the process overall. So for that reason, I'm going to be voting yes for it. Obviously, City Attorney, as you mentioned, if there is something that goes against what we were trying to achieve with this ordinance, then you would bring it forward. So, but I see that this is a step in the right direction, so I will be voting for this. So, and I appreciate all the work that you and your staff did on this as well. So thank you. Anything else from members of council? Seeing none, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson?
Aye.
Member Bethel?
Aye.
Member Prank?
Aye.
Member Russell?
Nay.
Mayor Sierra?
Aye.
Let the record show 4 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you very much, City Attorney Niles. Moving on to 11A2. This is amendment to code regarding the city's donation acceptance process. We have our Deputy City Attorney, Victoria McDermott. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I am here tonight to present on a proposed code amendment to formalize how the city accepts donations. So Charter Section 80 places donation acceptance with council without specifying how. In addition, the city has frequently offered small donations like books, coupons, or minor monetary gifts. And this proposed code change would create a clear process allowing for how those donations should be accepted through an administrative acceptance process. So those items can be handled efficiently while preserving council oversight for larger or more complex donations. This ordinance would create a new code section, Englewood Municipal Code Section 4-1-5, which again would establish that citywide donation acceptance procedure. It would clarify roles for when matters would go to council for approval versus the city manager, and would add documentation, reporting, and other safeguards with the goal of balancing efficiency with accountability. So under the proposed amendment, the city manager would be able to accept donations valued at $5,000 or less if the donation was for a public purpose, did not involve real property, and did not have any significant conditions or obligations tied to the donation. Council would still be approving anything over $5,000 or matters that involved real property or that then did have any kind of significant restriction or obligation tied to the donation. The code amendment also requires quarterly reporting to council. We would have public records maintained by the city clerk's office. Donations would be required to be deposited in the appropriate city fund accounts and be budgeted under city budget policies. In addition, the amendment would allow the city to decline any donation and would allow for referral to the city council where appropriate. So overall, this maintains strong oversight. Council still sees everything, just on a reporting basis for smaller items. This approach has three main benefits. The first being operational efficiency, the faster acceptance process for smaller donation items. It enhances good governance with a clear, consistent process, and it enables better service delivery, allowing departments to more easily use community-supported contributions. Overall, the intent of this change is to improve efficiency while maintaining council's policy role and oversight. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Deputy City Attorney. Any questions from members of council? Go ahead, Member Prang.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation and the work on this. I always appreciate process toward efficiency. So great work here. I do have a quick question. Is there any, if we were to want to say that we prohibit donations from organizations that are involved in electioneering or endorsing candidates for office in Englewood, is there any legal ramification to doing so?
So would there be any legal ramification for doing so? I mean, it would depend on how we were addressing it. So right now, the proposed code change would allow for us to decline a donation if it didn't meet city policies and purposes. So we would be looking at, is this a violation of our ethics rules? Is it some sort of unlawful donation? Certainly, we wouldn't want to similarly be accepting donations where it could be used to exert influence when a contractor has an item before the city for consideration. So we would still have that declination process, and by building it into the code amendment, we would have something to point to with some sort of clear reason for our ability to make that kind of decline.
So we could add something like that.
So we could do something like that, and it would give us more of a process to do so.
Okay. I would advocate for us doing so. I think that it's just a wise decision, and it provides clarity around what could maybe be a question mark for staff and the acceptance of donations for the city. So that would be my preference. And then I also did have a thought on, I like the aspect of reporting that's added into this. I would request that reporting come in conjunction with whatever the corresponding month is, as far as, so quarterly reports, tie that to or make it part of the packet for our monthly financials that are presented by the Director of Finance. And then maybe even an annual report by department and for what purpose, I think would be helpful information for council as well.
Understood. The way we had drafted it, it was with the intention that those quarterly reports would be made by the Director of Finance or their designee. So we can take that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. Any further questions from members of council? Actually, Member Prang, to your point, is there specific language that you would want to add, or is there somewhere, well, I agree with your point, but I'm also wondering if there's any, I guess this could be a question for staff. Are there, I'm just trying to think if there's maybe you're, what am I trying to say here? Are there organizations that provide donations to the city that potentially may also do something that Member Prang is worried about in terms of electioneering and that type of thing? It's a separate, well, in that case, I think I'm answering myself. Probably don't want to take a donation from anyone that in any type of way is associated with electioneering. So I was trying to separate the two. If there is somebody that is providing donations to the city for one respect, but then they may also be providing something electioneering on behalf of some candidate or whatever it happens to be. So now I get your point. So I'm thinking that, but I guess to now my question to you is, are there specific language that you would want to add as part of this ordinance? Have you thought that far? Or
I mean, other than prohibiting the acceptance of donations from any organizations that participate in electioneering and endorsement of candidates. I think that just gives a clear ethical focus to our staff to make decisions, especially when we're looking at, you know, allowing the city manager to be able to efficiently accept donations. There doesn't have to be a question mark around that. It's a clear cut answer and determination, and then donations can be moved forward efficiently.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Okay. Thank you very much, Member Prang. Any further questions for members of council? All right. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I'm thinking through this, and I like it in principle. What I'm thinking of, you know, a lot of times there's not an election going on, and there may be an organization that during election season will endorse candidates, but may want to volunteer and donate their time, their money to city programs in years where, you know, there's nothing to advocate for. I wonder if we could time restrict it to election, you know, city election years or something like that, where we're not causing prohibiting something that wouldn't be harmful anyway and would be beneficial to the city.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Go ahead, Member Prang.
I hear that point, and I think I understand your thinking on it. I guess my whole rationale to ask for this is to prevent influence, period. And so I don't think putting a timestamp on anything would prevent that. I mean, if an organization is involved in those types of activities and in the off years is doing a continuous drip of donations, especially monetary donations or anything like that to the city, that can create influence. And so I just think it's better to have it clear cut and not just allow it, period. I'm not thinking of this in terms of like volunteering or anything like that. I view that differently. And I don't think volunteering is really included in this action, is it?
No, so sorry. Thank you for the question. So no, volunteering wasn't specifically included in this. I mean, as it's currently drafted, we do have that right to decline where it's, you know, somehow unlawful or not in the city's best interest. So I think if we're thinking about the potential for a donation to be specifically made to try to influence an outcome of an election, we would be running into an FCPA issue, which would give us, you know, the right to decline, or certainly it would be enough to merit going to council as opposed to being something that would go under an administrative approval. I'm not aware of any kind of electioneering group that has currently made any kind of donation, or so I mean it might be something that we would want to get more background on from the departments to see if there is something that's happened or a better way to speak to it, or to get a better understanding of what other kind of groups are making these donations, so we don't have an unintended consequence where you know, it's an election year and, you know, this is a group that traditionally donates but is somehow involved in electioneering in other aspects, perhaps like at the state level or federal level, or not necessarily at the city.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that I'm necessarily concerned that currently this issue exists. I think that it could exist. And I think that we're functioning in a world that is a little kind of like the Wild West right now. So for me, I view this as being a proactive step to prevent that and to just make a really clear line in the sand, period. If I would prefer to be proactive in adding this in, and I'm happy to offer an amendment to the motion to do so. And then if we do research and realize that we're prohibiting something that's super beneficial to the city through these small donations, then we can revisit it and remove it. But I just think that a step like this could be a proactive way to continue to build transparency and trust within the city.
Thank you very much, Member Prang, Member Bethel, and then Mayor Potem.
I support Member Prang's amendment. I think that it's important to note that it's not that we couldn't potentially accept a donation from a group that has made an endorsement in a local or national election, but only that that donation comes before council for discussion. And I think that that makes things more transparent, and it removes any potential for, I don't know, the appearance of bias.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Mayor Potem.
I'm just thinking about this from a kind of a really practical perspective, and having led neighborhood rehab project a number of years where we were out, we were a nonprofit, but soliciting donations and soliciting them even in partnership with the city to perform a function within the city, and most of those donations were under that $5,000 mark. If the city wanted to do something like that, or perhaps even other programs where they're, I know for events, I think they do this already, solicit donations. How do you know that an organization isn't going to be doing electioneering in the next cycle? Or how do you know that an organization that did electioneering in the last cycle but has multiple purposes is going to do electioneering in the future cycle? You have to make, there's some mechanism in between there where you're making a judgment call. And then does that potentially, if we're deciding, well, we can accept from this group and not from that group, does that open us up to any potential liabilities and also like for things where we're soliciting donations to do good things in the city, I'm not like, unless it's during an election season, I don't know that I want to prevent anybody from doing that, even if one of their purposes is ultimately to they're going to do electioneering other times. I think that there's a lot of benefit to the city that we could potentially exclude if we make this too strict.
When I did want to respond to some of these points, I mean, there are the potential for those unintended consequences, and I think we'd also want to maybe put some more thought into what we mean by electioneering. Because, for instance, the Red Cross, they lobby state and local governments on certain issues. I think we'd want to make sure that we, and in time of an emergency, we wouldn't have inadvertently precluded ourselves from being able to accept donations from the Red Cross or work with them under this amendment.
I guess given that, then I would move that we table this item until we can get some better language and clarification. I'd be happy to entertain Member Bethel's suggestion or compromise that it's not quite, that definitive hard line that I was looking for, but if that is the case, then it comes before council. And then council is having a public facing conversation about it. But I mean, I feel like there's potentially enough support with the exclusion of Mayor Pro Tem to consider some sort of prohibition or restriction on that. So I'd prefer to table this and get some better language that would be workable to include in this so that we're doing it right.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. Deputy City Attorney, is there any type of time constraints on this item?
No, there's no time constraints on this item other than just wanting to try to get a efficient and clear process in place sooner than later. So we can.
Yeah, I get where Member Prang's trying to get with this item, so I would be in favor of tabling this as well. If we could get some language in there that isn't as restrictive as some of the thinking that we stated, but I think we're trying to get to the same place where we're trying to proactively not have this become an issue in the future. So, but I'll be open to that. Member Russell, go ahead.
Thank you, and I appreciate Member Prang bringing this forward because I absolutely do agree. I think it's necessary, and I think there's probably some dangers in some of the things that were brought up about nonprofits raising money to help citizens in the city, because I probably could give you enough people to talk to that believe that was tied to the elections. And so I think this is really important to do this, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
With no further comments, Member Prank, do you want to make a motion to table to date uncertain Council Bill 31?
Move to approve, or move to
Table.
table to date uncertain, what is the number again?
CB 31.
CB 31.
Thank you very much, Member Prank. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Russell. Any further comments? All right, seeing none, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
Thank you very much, Deputy City Attorney McDermott. We're moving on to approval of ordinances on second reading. We got Council Bill 24. This is the data sharing agreement between the CBI and the Englewood Police Department to use the Colorado Crime Information Center and the National Crime Information Center. Do we have the Chief of Police online, or?
We have the Deputy Chief as well as Division Chief Chad Reed. Deputy Chief Vance Fender is online.
Okay. Deputy Chief Fender, do you hear me?
But Division Chief Chad Reed is prepared to present.
Okay.
Answer
Well, there we
questions.
go. So Division Chief Reed, good evening. This is the second reading, so I don't think much has changed since we passed it on first reading. Anything to add, Division Chief?
No, not at this time.
All right. Any questions from members of council? Go ahead, Member Pring.
I don't have any questions, so you're off the hook. Just want to publicly state again that we did ask as our internal process that for the annual renewals that would come to council, I believe 90 days before that annual renewal, so that we can just have the conversation and do a quick check-in before the renewals, which is outside of the scope of the contract, I understand, but just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page with that, and if we're not, please speak now.
All right. Thank you very much, Member Praying. Member Bethel.
And I'd also like to reiterate for constituents and citizens that are viewing online or here in person that this is a one-way pipeline allowing Englewood Police Department to receive information from the CBI and to access their Colorado Crime Information Center rather than Englewood Police Department sharing information outwards.
All right, thank you, Member Bethel. All right, seeing no further questions, got to get a motion to approve 11B1.
So moved.
Thank you, Member Praying. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Any further comments? Seeing none, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
Thank you very much, Division Chief.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief as well. Moving on to Council Bill 29, this is a uniform hearing code. City Attorney Tamara Niles. Anything to add from the item from 2 weeks back, 3 weeks back?
I don't have anything to add. This is on second reading, and it's not on consent agenda because it wasn't a unanimous adoption at first reading, but I would welcome any questions.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, City Attorney Niles. Any questions from members of council? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve Council Bill 29? Anyone?
Move to approve Council Bill 29.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any further comments? All right, seeing none, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Nay.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 4 ayes and 1 nay.
Perfect. Thank you very much, City Clerk. We're now moving on to 11C1. This is the contract award recommendation for the Old Hampton Utilities Improvements Project Phase 2 with Timberwolf Excavating. We have our Director of South Platte Renew and Utilities, Director Van Rye. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. With me tonight is Deputy Director Stone and our Engineering Supervisor and Project Manager, Cliff Stevens. And so if there's any questions that I can't address, they are here to help with that as well. I think I'm gonna get to my, oh, here we go. Okay. So this is the, this is a contract amendment to add more scope for the stormwater portion of the project. And so if you recall, there was the old Hamden Complete Streets project, and prior to doing the Complete Streets project, where there was a project to upgrade the utilities under the streets, because you want to fix the utilities before we do the top side. And so in phase 1, the Broadway to Clarkson reach for the water system was completed. So that's the entire reach of the project. Additionally, we evaluated the sewer. The sewer did not need, the sewer was in good shape, and there was no conflict with it. So we actually did not need to do any sewer upgrades. And then for the storm, we actually did the work in phase 1 from Grant Street to Clarkson Street. And so that's the area that's generally in front of the hospital and the most impactful to the hospital. Well, there's still 2 more blocks to the west that are part of the original old system that the new system connects to, that were part of the original total project, as well as you can see in phase 3, there's an outfall reach that heads south on Lincoln and then ultimately discharges into Little Dry Creek. And so we're here tonight to request the funding to do the construction for the reach from Grant Street to Lincoln Street, and this is storm only. And so this is the existing pipe. We went through and looked at it. There's definitely some issues with some undermining around the pipe, some collapsed connections. We have, it's not uncommon for utilities who do directional boring to bore right through our facilities, and then we find them later. And so that's what you see in the third picture. And then the fourth picture is actually one of the more concerning issues here, which is there's a section of 48-inch pipe. And so the brand new system connects into the old system, and the old system reduces down to a really small pipe to likely avoid some utilities. And so what we're proposing with this amendment is to complete that system through to the point of Lincoln Street, and then there'll be another. We'll come back with another amendment to rehab the system moving south on Lincoln. So when we looked at this, we wanted to confirm that the pricing was still good. So we actually looked to the original contractor, which is Timberwolf Excavating from the phase 1 project, had them price out phase 2, as well as 3 other contractors that we are currently working with at the city to make sure that we have competitive pricing. 2 of them did not respond, and one of them, you can see HEI provided a higher bid. So the Timberwolf had originally priced this as part of the total project, but because of funding issues with the stormwater fund, it was removed and delayed. So we just wanted to validate that the pricing was still good. We also asked them to sharpen their pencil a little bit, and they did that as well. So we think we've gotten competitive pricing for this reach. So I talked a little bit about the funding. So earlier in the year, we talked about some of the challenges with the stormwater fund. So what this table is a cash flow analysis from January through September for the stormwater fund. And this amendment that we're proposing tonight is built into this cash flow to make sure that we don't end up with an issue where we overdraw the fund or we overextend the fund. I think the most critical and important step in all of this is That's Mile High flood reimbursement in June of 26 at $8 million. That was on the IGA, first reading, because the IGA was on consent tonight. So we're stepping closer and closer to being able to complete that IGA and then invoicing. And so based on the timing of first reading, second reading, and then 30-day for an ordinance, we would be invoicing likely in May and getting the funds into the account in June. And so from a cash flow perspective and an estimate, we believe that accurately reflects when that timing of that money will come in. This project that we're requesting approval for tonight, this phase, actually the costs of this wouldn't hit until likely the July-August timeframe, because the first thing they have to do is order the pipe, and then the pipe will come in, and then they'll install. And it's after ordering and then installing, that's when they'll give us our first invoices. So we anticipate the first invoices on this coming in August, which by then, ideally, the $8 million is transferred in, the loan has been repaid, and the stormwater fund, you can see where the fund balance ends up in the July, August, September timeframe, which incorporates this work. And so we believe it's a important phase to get completed. And so that's why we're bringing it forward now to continue to advance the improvement of that system. So as it relates to a recommendation, we're recommending award of phase 2 of the contract to Timberwolf for a total project of $996.30, 20% contingency. Part of the reason why that's a larger contingency is we're not quite sure if there's going to where that contraction is, if that's going to require some relocation of water line or something that's in the way. So we're adding a little bit more contingency there because there are the unknowns around that that part of this. Total project authorization at that point would be $1.188756 million, and this was presented to the Water and Sewer Board in March 10th, and they recommended approval by City Council. I'm here to answer any questions.
Director, thank you very much for the presentation. Any questions from members of council? I guess just one question for me. Where do we stand with the Mile High Flood District in terms of that $8 million? Where are they in the process?
So we're actually in the process of now approving the IGA. So they've moved all the funds into a single account. The IGA that was presented tonight that was on consent is the IGA that's been worked out between the city and Mile High Flood. And so we'll be approving it on our end, they're approving it on their end, and we anticipate complete approval on both sides by May. And so we're in the approval of the IGA stage right now.
But do they still have to do an approval of the funding itself, or was that already done?
No, that's right. So in February, they moved all the funds from the two funds that they had to their one internal fund, and then the IGA is referencing the invoicing of that fund to bring the $8 million back.
Okay. Thank you very much, Director. Member Pring.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I just have a quick question on the contract. It looks like, or on the ask for this project, it looks like the contingency, I'm sorry, I cannot speak this evening, is double what we normally ask for. Can you explain why that is?
Yeah, it has everything to do with the unknowns around that contraction to a 48-inch pipe.
Okay.
And so we don't know. Our concern is that we might have to do an adjacent utility relocation in order to get the right size pipe under, or to avoid the conflict. What our speculation is that the pipe necks down to a really small pipe because it was at the time they just did that to avoid the conflict, as opposed to actually ensuring that the right size conveyance moved through. So it's double because of that unknown. Now, if we get the pipe through and there's no issue and it's easy and we get the right separations, then we wouldn't anticipate using that level of contingency. It's really to do with that.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I went back and looked at our first contract and it was 10% then, and I'm like, why are we doing double? But that actually makes a lot of sense to me. So thank you.
Any further questions from council? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve 11C1?
Move to approve 11C1.
Thank you, Member Pring. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Russell. Any further comments? All right, seeing none, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Mayor Stayak.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Director.
Thank you.
Moving on to 11C2, we have our City Attorney Tamara Niles here to discuss the council policies update.
Thank you, Mayor. As you recall, March 16th, we had a study session and discussed proposed changes to the council policy manual. This is a manual that City Council has adopted that, again, provides a single location for all policies that City Council establishes, including conduct during council meetings, proclamations, and that sort of thing. The council policies manual is adopted by City Council motion. After the study session on March 16th, I went back and made the changes directed by City Council. And I've listed them here on the study session, on this PowerPoint slide, which is to eliminate council response to public comment specifically, but then move council members' choice to immediately after the public comment, change the deadline to submit materials for public comment to 5 p.m. on Friday, and change the deadline to sign up for online public comment to noon on Monday. And so this gives people for public comment more time to sign up and more time to submit materials. We also had originally proposed a repeal of Kell's rule, but we took out that repeal, so it will remain unchanged in the council policies manual. And there was a proposal for violations of our public comment policies means someone was disqualified from speaking during public comment for 90 days, but we changed that to 60 days at council direction. And then after the study session, we had proposed some potential changes, or at least discussed some potential changes regarding removal from consent agenda timelines. That remains unchanged, so current practice will stay the same. And we also had included a proposal for the mayor's ability to shorten or eliminate public comment if the business of the agenda required, but we removed that provision. By municipal code, City Council has authority to do that still, so that is will be a council action, but the mayor does not have the ability to effectuate that on his own. Again, this is a summary because we presented it in detail on March 16th, but I wanted to highlight those changes so you know what changed from March 16th to now.
Thank you very much. City Attorney Niles, any questions from council? Go ahead, Member Russell.
I noticed it's on page 10 of 27 that it was added, no one may sign up to speak at public comment after the meeting is called to order. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, these are just really our policy. We can change these on the spot, correct?
Yes, that is our current practice because the sign-up form is at the back of the room, and when the meeting starts, the clerks go and get it and they hand it to the mayor. So a lot of these policy changes were to reflect our current practice. So this would not be a change, it would be maintaining the status quo, but simply formalizing it in the council policies.
Okay, I would just like to present an idea. When Randy Penn was the mayor, after everybody spoke at public comment, you know, the 5 minutes and the 3 minutes, he would say, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? And people were able to come up, not having signed up or anything. So, I mean, I don't, I suppose we could do that, but I just think it leaves it open. So like really what happened the other night when Benjamin Ben David came in late, apparently he had signed up 2 weeks earlier and then his name got taken off the list. And then because there was that misunderstanding, if we were enforcing these rules, that wouldn't, you know, literally we shouldn't have done it. But it was our fault somehow, whether we wrote down that he wasn't speaking the next week. But did we have no, if we have a special meeting, we don't allow public comment at special meetings. So I just want to know, are these rules set in stone.
Well, anything can be changed. And council can choose to make an exception to these rules. It can be a game time decision. If you see that staff made a mistake, for example, city council can make an exception at that time. So we do currently require everyone to sign up. We require them to provide their accurate name, their accurate address, and that's so that if the speaker is one of your specific constituents, lives in your jurisdiction, you know that, so that you possibly take a special interest and help a constituent specifically with one of their issues that they raise. So that's our current process. We don't currently open it up for anyone to speak. We haven't done that in the 5 years I've been here.
Right, and it's probably even before you came that wasn't true. Randy Penn has been he was the mayor before I got on council, so it was over 10 years ago. So I think he got off of council the same time I got up. So I was here, and he did that all the time. So I mean, I don't think any of these things are really egregious, but I mean, sometimes putting rules in here like people giving accurate information and not lying. I mean, we kind of expect that to be the only time I think that maybe sometimes they don't and we don't know it. I mean, it would be obvious if I came in to speak and told you my name was Cynthia Sue. I mean, you would know that was not true. I don't know. I tend to believe people are going to be more truthful unless we have a relationship with them that. So anyway, I'm okay with this, but it bothers me that this is just our policy manual and we're putting down everything instead of being flexible on some things.
Thank you very much, Member Russell. Anything else, Member Russell, or?
No, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for members of council? No, I don't see any. So actually, I'll ask the question just because this is just a motion. So if this does pass tonight, this will be in effect
Next
in 2
meeting.
weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure it doesn't have the 30-day rule, right? So,
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much, City Attorney Niles. Any further questions? If not, can I get a motion to approve 11C2?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Any further comments? Member Bethel.
It's my understanding that we use Bob's Rules of Order versus Robert's Rules of Order, primarily because it's pliant or pliable, that we can move these rules around as we need to, that when an exception or, if someone is here to speak at public comment but didn't sign up, we can make these exceptions. These rules aren't set in stone. They're just guidelines for us to work off of. And I think it's good to have a best practice in place. But it's also good to be able to make those exceptions when we need to.
Thank you very much, Member Bethel. All right, with that, see no further comments, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Nay.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 4 ayes and 1 nay.
City Attorney Niles, thank you very much. All right, we're now moving on to 11C3. This is the 2026 budget supplemental. We have Ms. Jenny Nolan. Good evening.
Thank you. So we're going to review tonight the 2026 budget supplemental number 2. We'll just briefly go over the approval process, our request schedule, the supplemental summary, and then our supplemental requests. So I believe you've all have seen this budget supplemental process in the past. I won't belabor that. Tonight is our second budget supplemental request. Our next one is anticipated for July of 2026. Sorry. Thank you. So this is our budget supplemental request number 2. $79,500 is impacting the general fund. And then the balance there listed are the funds as indicated. So the first item that we have for tonight is the City Manager's Office, and Deputy City Manager Tim Dodd would like to provide some additional context for this request.
Great, thank you, Jenny. I just wanted to spend a few minutes with council going over this request. So this is a request for Englewood to participate in a program that's through the Department of Local Affairs, or DOLA's Best and Brightest Fellow Program. So essentially, as you may recall, we had a fellow in the city manager's office a couple of years ago. She left last year, named Liz Ramsey. And we really felt that there are a lot of benefits that came from that program. It provided additional support to the city manager and I, and quite frankly, to the entire organization in terms of being able to move projects forward. We found out about this program a few months ago. And so we're asking council's approval tonight for a budget appropriation. If you do approve it tonight, we have a few next steps. One next step would be for us to conduct interviews and select a candidate, and then we would need to come back to you, as it is considered a matching grant program, to get your consent for that grant. So a little bit about the Best and Brightest program. So this is intended for graduate students at 4 Colorado State public colleges and universities. So Adams State, Colorado State University, and then University of Colorado, Denver. So participants have to be at least 18 years of age. They have to be enrolled in a specific graduate program, mostly public administration or policy. And it is intended to be a 2-year program. So as some of you know, of course, the state does run on a different fiscal year than us. So their fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. So what we're asking for you tonight is for a half a year based on our fiscal year of budget authority. And then we would need to come back to you if we continue in the program for another year and a half, essentially. So it would be 2 years. It would be running from July 1st of this year of 2026 to June 30th of 2028. Again, we do believe that this would be able to provide us additional capacity. Some of the projects and initiatives that we've scoped for this position to potentially work on are the strategic planning, reporting, and development. You got a lot of great comments tonight about ways that we could strengthen how we talk about the strategic plan, how we communicate it. The previous management fellow was the one who built our initial dashboard for the strategic plan. Another idea we scoped for this position came from the retreat, and to focus on having a business-friendly culture. So there's several projects in there, including working with our community development department, but most of our departments to kind of follow through in that discussion in that direction. Affordable housing is also, we do obviously have an employee dedicated to this, but it's an area where there's quite a bit of help that's needed, as well as project management across the organization. As you may know, we started doing standard operating procedures across the organization. We have close to 200, but we need someone who can really kind of bring that project into the next level, as well as working on some things involving training, the employee satisfaction survey we do every year, and then data storytelling. So what we're asking for tonight is it's a total of about $54,500. But what we're asking for is $37,500. The rest would come from the DOLA grant if it is awarded. We have been tentatively approved for participation in this program. But again, I do realize that this probably need a little bit more detail than what's on your screen, and that's why I wanted to come up here and provide a little bit more information about the request this evening. I'm happy to take questions now, Mayor, if it makes sense, or I can take them at the end too.
Well, we want to ask questions at this point since since we have Tim up here and it's about the specific item, or wait until the end? Well, if there's any questions now, let's take questions. If not, we can also ask at the end as well. But I don't see any further questions on this specific item, Tim. So, perfect. Thank you very much for that overview. All right, Jenny.
All right, the next item is for the city clerk's office. We have an appropriation for the District 1 special election costs that are in excess of our current budget. And we can stop for questions now, or
I'm sorry, which item was this one? Was this the 15,000?
15,000, yes.
Okay. Any questions on the special election? I think this one's pretty self-explanatory, but go ahead, Member Russell.
So why is it more expensive than what we had budgeted? Is there a reason, or is it just we didn't have enough? Do we know this at the beginning when we?
Yes, we knew this at the beginning when we called for the special election that it would be outside the budget amount that we had for this year. This is an off-year election, so we took our budget down for elections this year and just knew we'd have to come back for supplemental if one did occur.
Okay, thank you.
But I think to that point, though, City Clerk, we didn't know what the total amount is at when we set the budget. Do we know what the total amount is at this point?
All we've been told is 30 to 40,000, so the totals
Right.
have not come in yet.
And every year we set aside 25,000, but we're expecting another 15 because of the 40,000 that you're
Yes,
seeing next.
correct.
Okay. Go ahead, Member Russell.
So is it possible that we might not need it?
We are being told it will definitely be over the 25,000 we have budgeted.
Okay. I mean, is it possible we would need more than that?
More than the 15?
Yes.
I do not believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, City Clerk. All right, no further questions on this item. Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, the next item is the exchange of positions between the Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf Department and the Communications Department. This basically has a zero effect to the overall budget. We're just transferring funds between those two departments of around $89,000. The next item included with this is a position reclassification by Communications, and this position reclass, the anticipated cost to that is $10,000. And if
Thank you
anybody
very
has
much,
any
Jenny.
questions?
All right, any questions on these two items? Go ahead, Member Russell.
So why are we transferring money between these accounts?
I will have both directors of Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf and Communications speak to that.
Thank you.
Good evening, Director Hargith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for the question, Councilmember Russell. This is essentially, we're moving the marketing position from Communications into Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf. What we've seen is the demand has grown significantly for requests for services in the Communications Department related to marketing. We've seen an increase of requests for Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf. They're up about 75% since 2022. Engagement work is up 91%, and our turnaround time has doubled. So we think that this will create some efficiencies within the two departments. It's going to free up, we'll basically have the marketing manager will now be focused on just the Parks, Recreation, and Library and Golf marketing efforts. And I'll have you maybe talk about this, but she'll essentially create smaller marketing teams within Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf. And that will free up our team, particularly the two employees that previously reported to that position for community engagement activities.
So the two people that used to, I guess what I'm really wanting to know is when we did the budget, because this has been going on since 2022, which is 4 years, did we not know it during the time we were doing the budget?
Well, this past year, we saw a significant increase, especially with the community engagement campaigns. And so that's, Christina and I started to talk about what would make sense to kind of alleviate some of that pressure. And this was the decision that we came to that would work for both departments.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any further questions or more clarification on this item? Do you need any more from Director Underhill as well, or?
Please.
Go ahead, Director Underhill.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Christine Underhill, Director of Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf. Ultimately, a lot of the programs that we do are looking for revenue. And so we're really upping the amount of marketing we're doing for these programs. That's why, as Director Hargress said, the number of requests has grown substantially over the last couple of years. And so, like you mentioned, this is a right fit for both the Communications Department, the Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf Department to really increase our marketing efforts. And we have a good team of individuals that have backgrounds in marketing too that can help our marketing manager out throughout the year.
Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, if I could just add to that,
Yeah,
we've
please,
also
go ahead.
seen a correlation between how much marketing we're doing and how many residents we have participating in programs, correct?
That is correct. And the communications is still helping Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf out with a number of campaigns too. So they're still doing a lot of campaigns while the other side of the house is marketing to increase revenue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russell. I guess my question, Director Hargett, is the next line item, the $10,000, is that partially because of what's happening here between the transfer between? I'm just wondering if you're elevating a position to account for this 10,000.
We would. We'd be elevating a position. So this position was identified in our strategic communications plan for the department back in, again, 2022. We hadn't really seen the need for it, but now we have this need for somebody to kind of oversee the day-to-day engagement activities for the department. And that's what this position would do, whether it's with messaging or, you know, team meetings with the project engineers from each department, those types of activities.
All right. Thank you very much, Director. Any further questions on these two items? All right, seeing none. All right, Jenny. Oh, wait,
Quick
Member
question.
Bethel, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Director Underhill, do we have any metrics or KPIs in place to measure the success of this position?
Great question. Yes, we do. And it's something we track monthly. So we should be able to show an increase in participation. And granted, the economy and discretionary funding and all of that is up in the air. But ultimately, the goal is to get our programs known so people do participate in them. And we are happy to come and present those KPIs at any time.
Thank you so much.
All right. I see no further questions. All right, Jenny.
Okay, the next item is a realignment of the contract management of the Allied Universal Security Service contract from the Public Works Department to the Police Department. And again, this will have a zero effect on the bottom line of the budget. We're just transferring funds from the Public Works Department to the Police Department for $539,027.
All right. Any questions on this item? Go ahead, Member Russell.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I
Director
can
Rochelle is
actually,
coming
I
up.
know I see Director Rochelle coming up, but I can actually start the answer to this, Member Russell. So when we hired a new facilities manager and we kind of evaluated the current structure of facilities, we felt that there was stronger alignment with building safety and the mission of the police department. And so we started talking to the police chief and then Division Chief Reed. They embraced the idea, and so the facilities team is still involved in it. Division Chief Reed actually did an entire analysis of several other police departments in the Front Range and how they do this, and in most cases, building safety does fall under the provision of the police department. Facilities is still involved, and the facilities manager and supervisors still do contact and speak to allied guards on a regular basis. But given that the mission of the police department is safety, including the safety of our buildings, we thought the alignment was stronger there.
Thank you.
Director Rochelle, anything to add?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. Victor Rochelle, Director of Public Works. Only thing I would add is the contract, when we renewed it under the police department as Deputy City Manager Dodd just previously stated. So this is aligning the funds with who's managing the contract.
Okay, so why did this change not happen when we moved everything else last September? I think it was September or October. Is there a reason?
So my understanding is that so A couple of reasons, actually. So the first is we wanted to give the facility. So the facilities manager started with the city on November 3rd, I believe it was, and so that position was vacant for about almost 2 months, about 6 or 7 weeks from when the realignments happened. So that was one reason, was that we wanted to give the new facilities manager time to kind of determine whether they thought it would make sense. The second was Division Chief Reed was conducting an analysis that took a bit of time. We also wanted to make sure that it was done in a thoughtful way, and that again the new facilities manager had time to look into it. Then I believe the contract that Director Rochelle mentioned came before council in January, I think January 20th or something like to that effect. And so it was multiple reasons of really wanting to finish an analysis, wanting to engage the new facilities manager in it. And so it wasn't something we felt we could decide immediately in September. We wanted to kind of analyze it before we made that decision.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any further questions on this item? All right. Thank you, Director Rochelle.
Thank you.
All right, Jenny, going on to an item that we've spoken about quite a bit. Anything new to add there, Jenny?
No.
All right. Any questions on the transfer of the $3 million from the sewer fund? Or into the sewer fund, I guess. No, the other way.
From the sewer fund to
storm
the
drainage, yeah. All right. I see no questions on those two items. All right,
Okay.
Jenny.
All right, the third item on the page is the golf course fund. This is an appropriation to repair the front nine first 6 holes. And I believe this item was brought forth to council on January 5th. And the funds are coming from the golf course net position, or their fund balance.
All right. Any questions on this? Go ahead, Member Russell.
Does this have anything to do with when they presented to us that there was soil erosion or something like that?
Yes, good memory. That is exactly what that was for. They do have it in their capital funds to pay for this. So this is just now we're moving the money as the project's getting close to wrapping up, actually.
Okay, so didn't somebody else try to fix it for us before and it didn't fix the problem?
No, I believe our superintendent talked about in the past how it was built on a landfill and the soil wasn't conditioned as it should have been over the years. And so ultimately this was going to be the fix, was putting new healthy soil into the ground.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Any further questions on that item? Golf course fund. All right. I guess last item, Jenny.
Almost. So the next item is from the Public Improvement Fund, $2,300,000, and that's for the Old Hamden Complete Streets, based on engineer estimates to complete this project. And the funds will be coming from the Public Improvement Fund unappropriated fund balance.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Actually, I'll start off with the first question just because the litigation's in here for Dartmouth Bridge. Victor, have we not heard anything new on that one yet? I think last time we spoke on this item, we were hoping to get a little bit of clarity by this point, but.
So you're asking for clarification on Dartmouth Bridge?
The Dartmouth Bridge project, yeah.
Yeah, I'll look to city attorney, but there's been ongoing discussions back and forth between our city attorney and the attorney for the outside counsel that's helping us with that, looking at it, and it's still under analysis. We don't have resolution just yet.
Okay. And then regarding the streetlights for 500,000, that's part of that line item?
So that's on Old Hamden Complete Streets. That is Excel Energy's cost estimate for streetlights.
And where would they be going in?
All along the new pedestrian path.
Oh, it's the streetlights. It's the. Okay, that's right. I do remember.
Yeah,
that
it's pedestrian scale
Okay.
lighting along that corridor.
All
Yes,
right. Perfect. Thank you for that. Member Russell, go ahead.
Thank you. So my question is on the lighting for Old Hampton Complete Streets. That's $2,300,000.
No, ma'am. Thank you for the question, Councilman Russell. No, the combination of the streetlights plus the latest engineer's estimate
show a estimated shortfall of 2.3 million total. The streetlights, Excel Energy has given us a quote of 500,000 for design, installation, and construction of materials and everything associated with the streetlights.
So the street lights, I may be okay with that, but if we don't have the $2.3 million to finish it, then we need to stop it. So is the 500,000 included in that 2.3 million, or is
Yes.
it on a different place?
It's included in the 2.3.
Okay. You answered my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the project is out for bid, and we're expecting numbers back shortly.
The whole project, the 2.3 million, is out
The
for bid?
the entire Old Hamden Complete Streets project itself is out for bid with numbers coming in this month.
And is that more than this 2.3 million?
No, that's what we estimate based on the engineer's estimate. The total project is the grant money plus the city's matching dollars plus the EDA money that's already contributed plus the 2.3.
And how much overmatch have we put into Old Hampton?
The grant fund city share was 1.55 million.
But I should mention, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
I should mention that's not an overmatch. That's just our required match, correct?
Correct. Thank you. That is our required match.
And I appreciate the questions and comment, Member Russell. I think staff is in complete agreement. If we can't get this money, and it does in fact come in over budget by this amount, I don't know how we justify moving forward. And so just for your information, I believe this was in the packet as well. We are meeting with the EDDA Finance Committee this month, followed by a meeting with the EDDA Board of Directors to talk about this shortfall and EDDA's potential participation in that. The mayor asked us to prepare some information for that, and so we have done that. But we are in agreement. If we don't have the funding, we shouldn't move forward.
Does this funding include paying for, well, out to bid? That doesn't cost us anything. But.
Right, and really the reason why we're putting it out to bid, number one, we want to stay on schedule, but also it's possible that, the bids come in under what our engineers' estimate are. Just depends on, the availability of contractors and what they bid for this project. So fingers crossed it'll come in lower. Or higher.
They could come in higher too.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I'll have more comments, but thank you for the answers to the questions.
Any further questions on this item? All right. Thank you very much, Victor.
Thank you.
All right, Jenny. You're right. There's a couple more.
Okay. Were there any other questions on the Dartmouth Bridge?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So the next one is Capital Projects Fund. We're transferring IT equipment budget for new positions, which we budget in the general fund. And then this is just the transfer of those costs to the Capital Projects Fund of $35,000 for 7 positions.
All right. Any questions on those two items? Go ahead, Member Russell.
So why are we transferring the money?
The budget for these capital or for these computer costs were budgeted in the general fund. However, the expenditure comes out of the Capital Projects Fund, out of the PC and MDT replacement project.
Okay. So we have that expense. It just needs to be moved to a different.
Correct. A different fund. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any further questions on those items or just anything else that has been brought up prior to this? All right. I see no further questions. Thank you very much, Jenny. Anything else you want to add?
We just have one last project. We had received a SIPA grant late last year, and that funding was dedicated to the city's website redesign project. And what staff would like to do is reappropriate those funds, add to the website redesign project about $3,100, and then reallocate 95,000. I've got a typo here. Wayfinding and placemaking program, that is $60,000. And then the other $35,000 is to the capital projects fund for the neighborhood signs design and installation. I've got that on the slide that that follows this slide, but I didn't make the change here. So basically, there's a zero reallocation of that 100,000. I'm showing it two different ways. One, allocating the $98,100 because that's the new money that needs to be appropriated from the capital projects fund to the website design project. However, we're using about $5,000 of the original budget appropriation to the website redesign project. So that scope changed just a little bit because the funding of $100,000 wasn't enough for the project. And then we're allocating $95,000, as I said, to the PIF wayfinding and placemaking program and the neighborhoods signs design and installation project in the capital projects fund. And I can go to, let me go to the slide. It might show it a little bit better. So on this slide, we have the original appropriation of $100,000 for the web redesign project. And we show the $98,100 coming into the fund for the website redesign project. However, we don't need $198,100 for this project, so we're reallocating $95,000 of that original 2026 appropriation to wayfinding, placemaking, and the neighborhood signs design and installation. So at the end, so the total 2026 amended appropriation, the full $198,100 is accounted for by those three projects.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm still trying to figure out the So there's 5,000 that we're adding to get to the 103,100. I'm just not sure how that 5,000, where that 5,000 is coming from those first two
It's the
items.
residual from that original appropriation. We're really reallocating that original appropriation. 5,000 to website. We're keeping that within the website redesign project, and then allocating the remainder 95,000 between wayfinding, placemaking, and the neighborhood signs.
Okay.
So you see that the original budget for those two projects, there were $0. So the addition of the 60,000 gets us to that amended budget for wayfinding and placemaking, and then the 35,000 to the neighborhood signs design and installation.
So all of this was under the capital project fund at one point, and now we're just shifting it to two different items.
Correct. Yeah, two different funds. Yeah, but all within the capital projects.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Member Pring.
Thank you. So further trying to understand this, the wayfinding and placemaking and neighborhood signage that we had an original $0 appropriation for, they were like next in line as far as priorities, as far as what we funded for 26?
I will
Or
have,
how did we determine
Director-
that this is where?
Yeah, I will have Director Hargreth come and speak on this
Okay, thank you.
appropriation.
Yes, thank you for the question. I don't know where it ranked as far as next in line. We thought it might be a good use of that funding to continue these programs, given that we have a master plan in place, and without funding, these programs will cease to continue until we identify additional funding.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions on these items? All right, anything else to add, Jenny?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Thank you. I think I get to the concern that Member Prang had on that last item, right? In terms of 95,000.
Yeah, I feel
And-
like we have the extra money, so we're just gonna throw it at these projects. I'm not, I would like to better understand how that determination was made
Right.
and if there are other areas, like I just kind of feel like maybe that
Mhm.
piece should have come back to council for us to say, now there's these monies available because we got the SIPA grant. What are we gonna prioritize with these dollars? I mean, $95,000 isn't a small amount of money in our budget. So I do have a question mark around that, yes.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit more color on that, just the difficulty we had in assigning where we were going to be spending our capital fund dollars last cycle. There was just a lot of back and forth, and just not everyone getting what they wanted, I guess, in that point. And so, without knowing and without having the context of what we were really cycling between, it's hard for me to say, yes, that's the best place for those 95,000. So I understand the concern, Member Prang. So, Member Russell, go ahead.
And as far as that goes, when we accepted the money, we had a place to spend it, and now we don't have a place to spend it. And I'm really concerned about a lot of this because we are moving money around. And this isn't just a little bit of money. We have money here, but we have to move it there. This is $10 million, in excess of $10 million. I do believe there are things in here that we probably do need to do, but we cannot continue spending money we don't have. And when we spent the unassigned fund balance down to pretty much zero, apparently there's 780,000 in the unassigned fund balance, but we're still continuing to do, we did a $6.7 million budget supplemental. Now we're doing a 10 point, what do we do the budgeting process for? We could just do budget supplementals all year. I mean, we're moving a lot of money, and it is very, how can we know when we're sitting here, we're trusting what they say? And what if they made a mistake? I'm not saying they would do something wrong, but what if there's a mistake? I just don't think this is very clear, and I think it needs to be less and more clear. Why did we have it? I mean, it's zero problem to the budget, but if it's zero problem, why didn't we put it where it belonged in the first place? And I definitely do not want to do, and I actually told the city manager in my one-on-one, we have done an amazing job on Old Hampton in fixing all the infrastructure, paving the roads, and making everything safe. This $2.3 million does not have to be spent. I mean, if we, I don't know whether the grant monies are creating a problem for us, but we need to stop spending money we don't have.
Thank you, Member Russell. In terms of these items, I don't have an issue with many of these items. The ones that, just the two that I do is just the 95,000 that we talked about at the very end. I like to just get a little bit of better understanding on that before I say yes to that. And if that has to come back as part of a separate budget supplemental, I'm okay with that. As member or as city manager stated, the Old Hampton Complete Streets, this is something that's been asked for by members of the public in terms of increasing our multi-mobility, especially around that area. Our partners, Swedish and Craig, have both asked for that as well, to provide safer sidewalks for people that are using their facilities. And it's been a partnership with the DDA and other neighborhood groups in terms of doing that type of work. I agree with the city manager. If the costs continue to rise on this, it's going to be very hard for us to pick this up. But because we haven't gotten the costs nailed down just yet, I'm okay with this, knowing that potentially this this budget money may not be spent depending on what the costs are for that item. Other than that, I think a lot of these items we discussed previously. You know, the $3 million was something that we started discussing at the beginning of this year, so couldn't have made it as part of the budget. Other than that, I think I'm okay with everything else. But the one exception I would make is that I would ask for an amendment to remove the 95,000 and just get a little bit more details on that before I say yes. Any other comments from members of council before I ask for a motion to approve? Go ahead, Member Bethel.
Yeah, I'd like to say that while I support and enjoy the city's wayfinding programs, I'd love to see that funding come before council as its own request. That way we can dive into where it's being put, the programs that communications are working on, and council can see the direct, I guess, impact of those funds. But again, I support what you're doing, and thank you for your work on that.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Member Pring?
I largely agree with most comments that you made, Mayor. Many of these items have come before us, and I understand why and how things are being moved. I guess I wanted to make one additional comment on the city manager's area of it in the fellow position. I don't love the price tag on this. I don't think I dislike it enough to say no to that piece of it, but I would like to see some exploration as to candidates that could potentially, or maybe a project appropriate for this position, to look at our capacity for our AV and sound supports for our meetings. I feel like we have one position that's supporting lots and lots and lots of things. And we've had some consistent issues pop up in some of our meeting spaces. I know that we've got some new systems and we're troubleshooting, but even outside of that scope, I just feel like one person managing all is a pretty big leap. And I just wonder if there's space there to explore partnership ideas, maybe with the high school. I do know that the high school has a pretty amazing sound booth in their auditorium and pretty high-end equipment. And could we create some kind of partnership to create a pipeline of, you know, internships, et cetera, that would give us some sustainability in the future for supports around those services for the city?
All right, thank you, Member Prang. All right, anything else? If not, can I get a motion to approve the budget supplemental, and then I can make a motion after that on any changes. So let's just get a motion on the table.
Move to approve 2026 budget supplemental number 1.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. All right.
I believe he said budget supplemental 1.
Oh, did
you, or did you say 2?
I said 1, I meant 2.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you very much, Member Russell, for catching that. Member Prang, you still have the second. All right, perfect. All right, members of council, I will make a motion to amend this budget supplemental to just remove the 95,000 for the place. Where's it at? The website, where is it? It's the neighborhood signs design and installation, and the other one was the wayfinding and place making program. So there's those two items. So that's my motion to amend. Could I get a second on that?
Second.
All right, thank you very much, Member Prang. Any further comments on the motion to amend? Go ahead, Member Bethel.
I think this amendment is also symbolic for us. we are entering into what is likely looking like a difficult economic period in the next few years, who knows. But we need to be, as Member Russell has said and Member Prang has said, and we've all kind of discussed, we need to be very vigilant in how we spend our funds. And this is a large budget supplemental. Budget supplementals are part of running a city. However, if we can be prudent and intentional in every dollar that we spend, we're going to be better off as a community. So I support this amendment.
Thank you very much, Member Belton. And yeah, I guess to my point, I kind of stated earlier, I think part of the reason why is just the difficulty that we had with approving the capital projects that we did last year. I just need a little bit more visibility into it. I know that we were looking to really prioritize some of our traffic calming around the city as a better place there than other areas. So that's what I'm just trying to understand. Not saying that I wouldn't improve this over the next quarter or so if needed, but I just needed to get better visibility on what we didn't improve as part of the project. So that's my thinking on this. All right, with that, I don't see any further comments. Can we please vote on the motion to amend?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
All right, perfect. Anything else for members of council? Go ahead, Member Russell.
I would like to amend taking out the 2.3 million. I think that's the right number. And let the DDA pay for it. So if the DDA is going to pay for it, do they pay back through the city or?
It's still a conversation that's ongoing with the DDA. So
Okay, but it still would have to go through the budget supplemental, is that correct?
yes.
At a future date, yes.
Yeah.
At a future date, so we wouldn't have to do it right now.
I would just ask the city attorney to ensure that we've bid a project out with the assumption that we have the money to fund the project. Is there any concern, and maybe Director Engels could weigh in on this too, but is there any concern that we are bidding that not in good faith?
Generally, we have the ability to reject all bids. And so if we, especially if it comes in significantly higher than what we bid, we're not required to then issue a contract. So not a best practice, I would say, from an operational standpoint, to spend a significant amount of time developing a bid package, overseeing the solicitation, and then we weigh it and make a recommendation. We generally wouldn't do that unless we had the funds available, but legally, we're not prohibited from doing that.
But
Thank you, City Attorney Niles. I would say that we are going to be having that conversation, as I mentioned, this month with the EDDA. So it's possible that we could come back with the contract and a budget amendment. Jenny, I mean, it would be off cycle. Council, we've committed to council to doing only five budget amendments per year, but we could bring one with a budget amendment if and when we decide to move forward with the contract.
so I guess I'm a little bit confused. We would still need this 2.3 million regardless, because they're contracting with the city. If the DDA was to pick this up, then there would be a future supplemental where the DDA transfers the money to the city. Correct? Because it's not, the contract's not with the DDA and whoever the contractor is, it's with the city.
Yes, that's correct. So if the EDDA does decide
Right.
to
Can
fund.
Jenny, excuse me, could you pull the mic a little bit closer to you, because I do
Bend
think
it
they're
towards you.
having
Yeah,
trouble.
there you go.
hearing
Okay,
you.
is
Thank
that
you.
better?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so if the EDDA Board of Directors does approve to provide, additional funding, then yes, we would come back with another budget supplemental for this 2.3,
And
or
then-
whatever that dollar amount is based on the bids.
And lastly, and I'll get back to you, Member Russell. Lastly, City Council still has to approve that contract for 2.3 million first. before
Or the
DDA
bid
transfers.
amount,
So
yeah.
it still comes in front of council first.
Yes.
So to me, it still seems prudent that this value resides here or stays within the budget supplemental, I guess is my point. So I'm hoping that made sense, Member Russell. I said a lot of things there, so.
Well, it did make sense, but if we decide at the point the bid comes forward and we haven't gotten a commitment from the DDA to pay for it, we still could reject it at that time.
Mayor, I would just say, based on the advice of council, I think it's fine for you to move forward with or without this. I think it's just, we have a funding source that we could use from the unappropriated fund balance. But if council is concerned about, additional shortfalls, similar to the conversation you had about the wayfinding line item, then this could be removed and we could wait for EDDA to make a decision later this month and then come back to you. I would not advise, though, one point that was made, that we approve the contract, then appropriate. We really need to appropriate the funds, then approve the contract.
I don't know if that was said, but I agree with you that we would follow that process, right? Yeah. Go ahead, Member Russell.
So if we could make an amendment now to remove that 2.3 million, and then do a budget supplemental later,
I'm going to turn to our finance staff.
Yes, that's correct, Member Russell.
Okay, I would like to do that, because then if something happens between now and then, I think we can do it this way and be fine. So I move to amend the budget by removing the $2.3 million for Old Hampton Complete Streets.
Thank you, Member Russell. So remove 2.3 million for complete streets. All right, I got your amendment. Could I get a second on that item? All right. I don't hear a second on it, so I think with that, the amendment fails without a second. But thank you, Member Russell, for bringing. Regardless, I do get your point on the process. So, all right. Anything else on the budget supplemental? If not, we have a motion. We have an amendment. So, can we vote on the resolution as amended?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Nay.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 4 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jenny, and thank you very much to all members of staff for speaking up on that budget supplemental. So thank you for that. All right, last item tonight, City Attorney Tamara is here to discuss Mr. Robinson donation for $200,000 to the city.
Yes, this is the opposite of the agenda item you just considered. This is someone wants to give us money rather than expenditure of money. Mr. Jerry Robinson executed a will in 2018 that left the city of Englewood $200,000 for a park improvement. The only string attached is that we need to include a plaque acknowledging the gift. He also left $200,000 to Englewood Historic Society to further their work, and the remainder of his approximately $18 million estate largely went to various charitable organizations, largely Catholic-based organizations. We understand he was a devout Catholic. So we did some background and research. We reached out to his executor, who is a lifelong friend of his, and asked, why did he leave us this money? And nobody's really sure. An extremely generous gift. Of course, he passed away last year, so we've gone through the probate process. He lived on the border of Englewood and Cherry Hills Village, but we don't have any indicators that suggested he frequented our parks, but a very generous gift to the city of Englewood. So from here, charter requires council to accept gifts. You received a presentation on Charter 80 earlier tonight, so council has authority to do that. We're asking that council do so by motion, which would then allow the mayor to sign the documents and us to receive a check. What we anticipate is that this project will come back to city council for approval, because you would need to approve any contract in excess of $125,000. I also will request that Parks give me a mock-up of the plaque so that I can confirm it complied with the will stipulations. And I also would like to notify his executor, here's the plaque that we will place, we anticipate, at Bellevue Park for new playground equipment there. It's in need of replacement and updating. And it's also a widely used park, so we think it would benefit the majority of our citizens that regularly utilize our park. So I also would like to, once that's finalized, council approves the contract, then I want to notify as executor that this is what we are doing with the funds, and again, thank them for facilitating giving it to us for this public purpose.
Thank you very much, City Attorney Niles. Any questions from members of council? I see he also left $200,000 to the Historic Preservation Society as well in Englewood.
Yes, so it's a separate entity, so City Council doesn't accept their gift on their behalf. I've been in regular contact with Matt Crabtree, who represents the Historic Society, to keep them updated on the status. I've facilitated their communication with the attorney for the estate to ensure they are able to coordinate receiving their check as well. But other than keeping them updated, I haven't had interaction with them on what they plan to do with the money.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Any further questions from members of council? All right, if not, can I get a motion to approve 11C4?
So moved.
Thank you very much, Member Praying. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any further comments? My only comment is just thank you very much to Mr. Robinson for his generosity to the city of Englewood and to the Historic Preservation Society. Didn't know Mr. Robinson, but really appreciate his gift, and it just sounds like yeah, he served his church and served his city, so or frequented at the very least. So just really appreciate the generosity of Mr. Robinson. So thank you so much. All right, with that, can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes.
All right, thank you so much. All right, moving on to Mayor's Choice. Just a couple items for me tonight, everyone. So real quick, so on Thursday night from 6 to 8 o'clock at Maddox, I'm going to be participating with the Englewood schools on a Stronger Together event. It's going to be myself, City Manager Lewis, you'll be there, Superintendent, as well as the School Board President, Katie Cross. I think it's just going to be like a Q&A type of session. So, but if anybody from the public wants to join or any members of council, 6 to 8 p.m. this Thursday at Maddox, at the Maddox School. So that's one item. Number two, actually, we've been working on this. I know that some members of the public have been asking for an additional session on the roundabouts that are going to be coming on Dartmouth, specifically right at Logan and on Downing. We have been working on a date to have another meeting. I think we're settling on May 5th. If I remember correctly, I don't think we have a time set just yet, but I know that it's gonna be May 5th. It's a Tuesday. We'll settle on a time. I'm guessing it's probably gonna be sometime after 5 o'clock on Tuesday, but I know there's been just some interest with that. We wanted to provide the city enough time to get the communication out as well on this event. So it will be May 5th, and I believe that there's gonna be quite a robust marketing of the event. So all that information is to be forthcoming. As I get more information, I'll be sure to post it and sure to email it out as well to those that are interested in attending. So, yeah, that's going to be on May 5th. And lastly, I'll bring this up just because I know that Member Prang and I kind of have realized that we're probably going to be out of or both on vacation around the same time. And I just want to bring it to the attention of members of council. But I myself am going to be out the first and second Monday of June. Member Praying, when are you out? Are you out the last week of May?
I am.
And the second week? Or?
I'll be out. Do we have? We have a meeting on the 26th.
We sometimes do. Sometimes we're able to take it off depending on our schedule. But the 26th, it would be the Monday.
So it would be that week, and then I will also be missing June 1st.
Okay, so June 1st and the 26th, if we happen to have that, May 26th, the Tuesday after Memorial Day.
Correct.
So we just wanted to bring it to council's attention in the event that you guys are also planning vacations. Hopefully not, because we won't have quorum at that point. We will have a full body at that point. But also the reason why I'm bringing it up is that I know that we were looking to get the cameras and the surveillance item on for middle of May, and so we just want to make sure that that's still possible due to the schedules that we have coming up. So just wanted to bring it to the attention. There's no action items to be taken at this point, but just want to bring visibility to this for members of council. All right. I have nothing else. Anyone for council member voice?
I actually, I have a couple of things.
Go ahead, Member Russell.
When is the election information supposed to be posted?
Yes, so we will have preliminary results available shortly after 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Those are just preliminary. That'll be any ballots that have been counted up to a certain point. So ballots will still be being processed. I believe the first update won't happen until Wednesday. And then the results will be certified and final on the 17th. And then the new council member will be sworn in on the 20th.
So where would the public be able to find the
The
results?
city election webpage.
On the city website?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and I've also heard from a couple of people that they didn't get a ballot. Can they get a ballot somewhere tomorrow?
They can go to CRS. We had a lot of calls today, but people were actually in District 2 and not in District 1 when we got those calls to verify about why they didn't receive a ballot. So we're happy to help if they want to give us a call, but if they truly are in District 1 and need to be issued a ballot, they can get that done tomorrow.
Okay, so they can, if they have an issue and a council member gets a call, they can have them call you?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. And then I just have, I have one other question. The one council request that I had done, and I believe what I had done, and it probably was, it was on March 16th, in the council request, I asked that city staff would respond to questions from the public comment. I have a question. Do we use AI to listen to those and generate the council requests?
No, we don't.
Okay.
So I will take any blame for having misunderstood the questions. But actually, I think that's the one that they actually emailed the city clerk or provided the city clerk's office with a copy that was then forwarded to me, was it not?
Well, it could be, but this is how it, I mean, when I first read it, it just went over my head. But this is the request. Before the city spends millions of taxpayer dollars on roundabouts to dismantle a system that currently works, I demand a comprehensive and public accounting of the following. The safety to cost calculation, show the community the complex data that proves a roundabout is safer for 7-year-old pedestrians than a controlled red light. It's not enough to simply say studies have shown, quote, a full disclosure of downsides. I want to see the hidden costs, not just the budget, but the negative impacts on peak traffic flow, maintenance, snow removal, and bicyclist safety that were critically weighed and considered. Justification for change. We do not need change for the sake of change. If you cannot prove with certainty that this project is well worth the multi-million-dollar price tag, it should be rejected. I did not say those things, and I would consider that very disrespectful to staff. I demand this. But the truth is, I didn't really even say any of this. And it was Mr. Phillipson, I believe is his last name. And when he spoke, it was the most respectful presentation I have ever heard. And I think this was a very bad mischaracterization of what was said. But I get it was attributed to me, and that really troubled me. but also it wasn't fair to Mr. Phillipson either. I mean, his name wasn't named here, but those are the exact words that he used. So is there a better way to address that?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Member Russell. I think you're hitting on a challenge that we have, and I frankly agree with your assessment. But a challenge we have when residents come to the dais and make a presentation, and then council asks for us to use their email, which in this case he had sent an email which was forwarded to me by one or more members of council. And your council request was to answer the questions that he had sent us. So we didn't necessarily, you didn't actually summarize his talking points.
Right.
You asked staff to just use his questions that he had emailed to y'all in advance. And so that's why we did not want to alter that request at all. But because you had asked us to do that, we put that in. If there is a better way, which we think it might be better for council to synthesize, maybe taking the public comments that you hear and then ask only the questions that you're really interested in, rather than maybe a verbatim email or a written statement that's given to the city clerk. That way we're really getting to the crux of what council wants, and it can be tailored more to what, how you would say it or to the specific information you want.
Okay, I appreciate that, because his email, probably these things were written in his email exactly as he said them, but in his presentation, it was very respectful. It wasn't, I demand you give me this information. So I am willing to do that, especially if if our speakers come up and I ask them to send me an email, I would be happy to do that. So I just wanted to make sure people didn't think I was doing that. So, and also, this is just a question. Does staff use AI generated things? Is there a policy around, because we've talked about this in relation to the police department, about them using AI to generate police reports. And so maybe there should be policies around staff too.
We do have that policy, and I'd like to turn it over to Deputy City Manager Tim Dodd, who helped craft that with the City Attorney's Office.
Yeah, thank you. So about almost 2 years ago, Deputy City Attorney Victoria McDermott and I went to 2 separate conferences in our spaces and came back and shared notes. And that led to the creation of a internal AI staff working group that meets quarterly, as well as the creation of AI guidelines. And to your point, Member Russell, we are looking right now to kind of revise those. As you all know, we're working in a space that's changing rapidly. So we meant for the guidelines to be pretty malleable. But one of the things we do expect staff to not generate work on their own using AI. They are allowed to use AI per the guidelines to edit work, but they're supposed to be noting that this was created or with assistance from AI. We are piloting, as you probably know, as part of the budget process, licenses with Copilot through Microsoft. That pilot launched about a week ago. We're hoping to have some data from that pilot to provide to council as part of the budget process for 2027. We consider an expansion of that. We also have offered, I believe, 2 trainings to staff as what we call a lunch and learn program for basically how they can use AI to help in their daily work. We don't want, nor does the policy note that AI would be used to supplant or replace work done by staff, but we do currently allow it to be used as a supplemental. One of the things we're looking at right now is AI note takers. We do have some staff members who use those. They aren't fully contemplated in the policy, and so that's something we need to be looking at kind of in the 2.0 version of it. I do know, as a general practice, if you're on a meeting with someone using a note taker, we do expect that they would note that they would be using that note taker and things like that. But we do know we have a lot to kind of to do in that realm, but that's where we're at right now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right, Member Pring.
Thank you, Mayor.
I have a point of information real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Prang, but pertaining to Rita's question about the council request, Just a point of information that I did provide previous council with those direct studies from the Colorado Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, as well as other studies around roundabout safety in an email February 6th, 2024, the first time that I came and spoke to council about roundabouts. So if council is curious about those specific studies, those are linked in that email. I also have those studies available at quick request that I can send to everyone.
Thank you, Member Bethel. Member Prank.
Okay, thank you again. Two quick items. One, I would like to get some support from council, if possible, to explore the idea of asking Budget Advisory Committee if they would have the capacity or ability to look at creating a local cost of service index for us. I don't know what the process is to do that other than to be asking right now on the dais to take that idea to them just to see if it's something feasible for them to work on and be able to bring it back to council and get approval to move forward or not. How do we handle that?
This is normally a step. It's also something that they can decide to do on their own.
Oh, okay.
I guess in a sense because I'm guessing it's probably too late for them to consider this as part of their annual report to council that they normally give in late July, August, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer it go to them as an ask from us.
Okay.
With some structure around it and, kind of a goal of how we would like to use it. But I think a first step would just be to bring the idea there and have the conversation and see if there's interest in the room to actually work on something like that.
I wasn't suggesting that they could get it done in 4 months, but yes, I would agree with you.
I was thinking a year.
Yes.
I was thinking a year, maybe even more, depending, on what's needed for it. I think it would be really worthy work and a great tool for us to have. And so whatever amount of time it takes to get it done right and build something like that, if there is interest and expertise to be able to do it, all the better. And also a meaningful way for that group to continue to stay engaged with council.
No complaints for me. Good with the idea of presenting it to them.
Awesome. I will take that to our next meeting. And then lastly, I'd like to always throw out some positive kudos to our businesses in the community. Recently, I went and had dinner at Masala and Curry, and I promised them that I would bring forward and say publicly that their name is no longer Tika Grill. I think that they're having some confusion and competition with another Tika restaurant that's actually in Denver. But this is what used to be a Tika Grill restaurant. It's now called Masala and Curry. Their food is amazing. The customer service is great. Go visit with them. And when you're ordering Uber Eats or anything like that, make sure you're ordering from Englewood.
I think part of the name change was because of the confusion that people were ordering, right? Yeah. Fantastic spot. So thank you very much, Member Prang. Member Bethel.
Yeah, I'm sure as many of us know, the Sheridan educators are on strike right now. I wanted to take a moment both to support their educators and the methods of collective bargaining that are so important to our nation and to our workforce. And also in discussions that I had with friends who are educators in Sheridan and with their union representatives, just as an individual, they mentioned the strength of Englewood schools and the strength of the Englewood School Board. And I want to take a moment to recognize the hard work that Englewood Schools puts in and the hard work that our school board does and commend them for that.
Thank you, Member Bethel. All right, City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just have a couple of items. Mostly, I want to turn it over to Deputy City Manager Dodd to talk about some custom questions that you all vote on every other year for our annual citizen survey. But I also wanted to let you know that we are finalizing the location, but on April 30th, in the early evening, we'll be hosting an event in Englewood South corridor to highlight the work that's been done to date on the second phase of this project. Obviously, we'll be anchoring that event in the work of the South Broadway Complete Streets project. But we also want to really share with the community what you all have decided to move forward with in terms of the economic incentives, which we're finalizing getting that information out. We also have worked in the safety meetings, with the safety meetings, the public art strategy, installation of the banners in the corridor, which are all now designed and being fabricated. But that's going to be April 30th at a date to be determined, but somewhere in the South Corridor, and we'd love to have you all and the public at that event. And lastly, I'll turn it over to Tim to talk about that survey question.
Great, thank you, City Manager Lewis. So yeah, you probably saw in your packet a memo that goes over the National Community Survey. So very quickly, this is a survey that the city has done every other year since 2007. I linked in your packet the most recent examples of it. It's done through a contract we have with a company called Polco. It's actually through their subsidiary, that's the National Research Center, or NRC. I believe NRC existed separately from Polco previously, but I'm not exactly sure of that. But it's been owned by Polco for a while. So basically the way it works is a survey that's done nationwide. When I looked it up about 2 years ago, there were about 350 other cities that participated in this. That number may have changed. We also, 2 years ago, and we did this in 2024, we were also able to create a custom benchmark. So if you look at the website for 2024 results, you'll see the results measured against the general benchmark of Polco, as well as custom benchmarks. So those were cities that we picked that are similar to our size and mostly in Colorado. The general benchmark are really any cities that participate in this. We do, as part of the contract with Polco, have the availability, as City Manager Lewis said, to have what's considered to be about a half a page of questions. So typically that works out to about 5 questions. The other questions are all set. So most of these questions do relate to service delivery in areas like utilities, parks, libraries, all things that we do as a city, public safety. The methodology they use is called ABS, or address-based sampling. What's kind of interesting about the way they do this is there's a closed survey where they generate a list from the post office. It gets mailed to people. They do, I think, a couple different hits. They do a letter. They do also a follow-up postcard. And then the last couple weeks of the survey, they actually open it up. And so it's also online, available to anyone. So not everyone gets an initial invitation. When they present the details to us, we do get cross tabulation results. We also are able to see kind of what the results were of the closed survey, so to speak, or the scientific survey, as well as the open survey. The last couple of years, you had you had 5 custom questions in the last couple of years that you utilized. So one was, please rate the quality of the city's commitment to creating a community welcoming of residents of all backgrounds. That was asked the last 3 years. Also asked the last 3 years was to rate the quality of law enforcement treating all residents fairly. Also asked the last 3 years was to select a statement that best represents opinions regarding homelessness in the city. And then the next one was, please select the statement that best represents your opinion regarding new duplexes, triplexes, townhomes, and condos in Englewood. And then previously, there was also a question about off-leash dog parks. So the number 5 is somewhat soft. It's really between 4 and 6 that we can add.
Thank you very much, Tim. And you're just asking whether or not we want to keep the same questions, come up with 5 new ones, or... All right. Any feedback from members of council? If there's some they want to change or keep the same, go ahead, Member Brink.
I don't have feedback on the questions, but I do have, it's going to make everyone groan, so I apologize in advance. But I started thinking about data collection and the conversations that we've been having around data. And so then that led me to look at who owns the data that is collected by this survey. And it's actually owned by Polco, not Englewood. So then, of course, I started looking at who can access our data. I was doing some due diligence in my mind to like ask similar questions that we've asked of the police department and the systems that we use there. And so I am not bringing this up to necessarily stop us right now from using this survey, but I think I would like us all to reflect a little bit on the use of surveys like this and the fact that these surveys do gather demographic information. And while, in order for government agencies to access that information, there has to be a warrant or a clear authorized reason to do so. But the information can be accessed. Most often, it sounds like it's accessed in an aggregate form. So that gives me some, reassurances. However, I do think that there are some pieces of information that, even in aggregate form, could draw the eye or attention of perhaps federal persons, is the only way I can say it, who don't care to follow federal or state or constitutional rules and laws. So I just have some concerns around, some things like gender, how you're identifying in the collection of that kind of data. I have, very dear to my heart concerns about especially our transgender neighbors in the community, and sexual orientation not being a protected piece of information anymore as far as this current administration goes. So I think we need to really be thinking more broadly outside of just policing and the systems that we use there, but what are our standards around data collection, period, and where our data lives and who manages it for us. And I would like us to, when we have our broader data conversation, include things like this. So if we're going to talk about creating a standard around how we handle our data, in kind of give staff direction on how to proceed in using systems that do that, I think it should be inclusive of things like this. And we as a council should be mindful when we're looking at this. Seem like such a simple, it's not even an official agenda item, but there's some implications here. So I just wanted to say that. I also would like to enter a council request, and I can provide wording for this in a follow-up email tomorrow. But I would like to enter a council request to have an example or two of where specific feedback that was received from this poll or this survey that resulted in a specific goal created in the strategic plan, a project or program implemented in the city, or a change of decision or strategy on an existing project. And the reason that I'm going to answer that council request is to just make sure that this is, I know that we have good intentions with this, but we should be very intentional, especially when we're employing tools within our community. I don't want to be doing things just for a bureaucratic exercise to say that we're surveying our community. I want to see actual proof and connection that we're collecting this survey data for a reason and that it's actually being used meaningfully to shift something for us or to inform something specific. So I, again, will follow up tomorrow with a council request on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Prang. No, it's good insight in terms of where you took that, because I agree with you on your message about data collection overall, so, which brings up a bigger issue. But I agree. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
I was just going to speak to the questions. I like to keep doing these same questions as much as possible. At least some of them. I mean, I think over time they'll kind of become less helpful. But to see the changes from survey to survey is where I really find the benefit in the study. So I read through the questions and I'm happy with the ones that are there. Unless I think there are some that could be updated. But overall, I think they're pretty good. I definitely want to keep the one about housing types. I think that's really helpful information.
I'm good with the questions as is. Yeah, in terms of what's been presented, so we're good there, but we'll have a larger conversation about data collection. All right. I see no other disagreement on this, so all right. Anything else, Deputy City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. That's helpful feedback. And I do want to note that probably over half of our metrics in the strategic plan come from this survey. So it is highly used in terms of our strategic plan metrics that we report out. And it's also possible if council wants to, forego the survey, that we would have a gap, but if council would rather forego that, we could save that funding. We just wouldn't have the metric data behind some of the strategic plan items. So appreciate the conversation on that. And then last but not least, thank you, Mayor, for mentioning the town hall and the Stronger Together event. That was actually a byproduct of the conversation that we had during my evaluation, where you all suggested really broadening out those city manager briefings that I do with board and commission members, with our alumni of our resident groups. And so this is an opportunity, hopefully, to get the school parents involved. We'd love to have as many folks from the community come as possible. A majority of that event will actually be just Q&A with the superintendent, the school board president, the mayor, and myself. And so we'd love for all of you, as well as members of the community and our school community, to come out for that. And the rest of it will focus really on the partnerships that we have between the district and the city. So thank you, Mayor.
All right. With that, everyone, we are now adjourned. We will see you next Monday night. Have a good evening.